raise some
Cain. You gotta raise some Cain. In the heartland where the faith runs strong, we've seen the shadows growing long. Watch those around us be deceived. Yeah, the fight is at our doors, no matter who we believe. Corruption, lawless day and night, we'll speak the truth into the light. We'll bring the battle, heed the call, watch the whole thing fall. We gotta raise some Cain, show the lies, break some chains and make things right. Feel the power, be the change, the time is now. We gotta raise some Cain.
Good evening and welcome to the Raising Cain Show. Tonight, prepare for revelations from Tim Dillard, a strategist and historian whose family stood at the heart of the Shah of Iran's inner circle, witnessing the shadows of the 1979 revolution that reshaped the world. He has moved in elite circles, shaping alliances with Christian leaders behind Christians United for Israel and connecting to global power brokers close to Benjamin Netanyahu. Now he unveils a bold vision, Freedom Place, and the enigmatic perpetual loop ecosphere, poised to reclaim truth and redefine our future. What hidden truths from history and what radical ideas for tomorrow await? We return after this brief break, so stay tuned.
Heard of Q Broadcast? It's taking the world by storm. People are cutting the cord to their high cable bills and moving away from streaming services like Netflix, Hulu, and others for something better. Q Broadcast. For just $60 a month, you'll get access to every channel you could ever want, including HBO, Cinemax, and Starz. And the best part? There are no contracts, no hidden fees, and you're free to cancel anytime. With Q Broadcast, you can enjoy streaming live TV, movies, and top series on up to 5 devices at once. Whether you're at home or on the go, Q Broadcast makes sure your entertainment is always at your fingertips. Imagine being able to watch all your favorite channels from anywhere, anytime, without any restrictions. We're talking about thousands of movies, hundreds of TV series, and a huge library of live channels, all in one place. And don't forget video on demand and pay-per-view events. Those are included at no extra cost, so you'll never miss a big event again. Now, take a second and think about your current cable bill. You're probably paying anywhere between $100 and $300 every month, locked into long-term contracts and hit with surprise rate increases. With Q Broadcast, that's a thing of the past. It's just $60 a month. No contracts, no extra fees, no hidden costs, and no price hikes. Why juggle multiple subscriptions like Netflix, Hulu, and cable when Q Broadcast gives you everything you need in one convenient package? People everywhere are switching to Q Broadcast, saving money and getting more content than ever before. So, what are you waiting for? Click the link in the description and sign up for Q Broadcast today. Just $60 a month, no contracts, no hidden fees. It's time to take control of your entertainment and start streaming smarter.
Welcome back to the Raising Cain Show. We are honored to have with us tonight Tim Dillard, a distinguished strategist, historian, and entrepreneur whose life has intersected with some of the most transformative events and influential networks of our era. Through profound family connections to the Shah of Iran's inner financial circle, evacuated to the United States during the seismic 1979 revolution, Tim possesses a rare, intimate perspective on one of modern history's defining regime changes and its enduring global repercussions. He has collaborated closely with prominent Christian leaders, including early foundational work with Christians United for Israel, alongside figures such as Joel Osteen and John Hagee, and has engaged with key international political actors like or linked, I should say, to Benjamin Netanyahu. In his present endeavors, Tim directs initiatives such as Freedom Place, which seeks to foster genuine unity amongst communities, restore foundational cultural truths, and innovate sustainable economic frameworks through his visionary perpetual loop ecosphere. Tim, thank you so much for joining this evening. We're eager to hear your insights directly.
Thank you, Nate. I'm not from Iran. My CPA was the son of the head of financial for the Shah, and I've been friends with him for over 30 years now. And it has included meetings with your old friends at the FBI, the NSA, and all kinds of things. So I'm not a guy that knows very much, and I don't know very many people. It just turns out that I know the people that know all the people. So, and it's put me, I always end up in these situations where I'm like, I mean, I'm like, how did this happen? And I guess I have a perspective on certain things that helps a situation transcend itself and move to the next level. So I'm not from Iran, but my friend, he's been my CPA for a long time, very good friend, on with him today, talking about what's really going on behind the scenes in Iran. And it's quite different than I think what most people have been told, which, what's the first casualty in war? The truth, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And so and that's really the quest I think that we're all on, is to finally get to the truth. And this sounds like self-promotion, but it's not. But our next book is called 3rd Timothy, a little play on 1st and 2nd Timothy, and that's my name, Timothy, so I can use that. But it's really it's called the truth about the lie. And this lie that has perpetuated itself throughout history. And what's the old saying about history? History is a lie agreed upon, and history is written by the winners. And so we've had a passionate search. We have 300 people with us in our Freedom Place project. And really, we're out for the truth. But the truth is rooted in, for us, my source of truth is the Word of God. And I'm no biblical scholar. I know enough to be dangerous, and I can quote a few scriptures here and there in the right context at the right time. But I've had this perspective, and I was on with my friend today about Iran, and Iran is 80, because what I grew up with Iran was this Western culture that got ruined by the conglomerate of the CIA, MI6, and Mossad, who took the Shah out after putting him in what was it, 54 or 53, and then brought in the Khomeini and what we call radical Islam, because their plan was to begin the destabilization of the Middle East, so it's more easily controlled, right? That's what kings learned thousands of years ago, that if they could get the people fight against themselves all the time, they didn't have to worry about managing the people. And so that's really the history of Iran. I mean, but Iran had Britain managed Iran at one point. France owned Iran. It's been, because of its geographic position on the Strait of Hormuz. It's a hard word to pronounce. Hormuz is, I think, how it's pronounced. It has this incredibly strategic geographic nature. To the north is the Caspian Sea, which that's just a closed body of water. This has no real strategic value. And then they're located next to Iraq, and then they're fairly close to Israel if you fly across Iraq and Jordan. So it's a different world, but 80%, my friend his mother just died there, and he went back to, she was almost 100 years old, and he went back to bury her about 3 months ago. And he was saying, look, Tim, it's 80%. He said, you could call it agrarian. It's just people that are just looking to get through each day. And they're farmers, and they're just people that will do whatever they're told. He said, but if you invade their land, they'll just fight you to the death no matter what. They're just made that way. It's kind of like the rednecks and good old boys of America. they just want to be left alone. But if you want to fight, they're ready. So we're dealing with that, and I'm really at a loss to understand. There's so many different tentacles as to why. Excuse me, I've got a little allergy down here. I'm scratching my nose, but there's so many tentacles as to why we would even do this. After I don't know how many times Trump said, and this isn't an indictment of Trump. In politics, 2 weeks is a lifetime, a British prime minister said once. And so what he's doing, whether he's got the right motive or the wrong motive, that's not for me or you to say. We don't know, and nor will we ever know. But
it's interesting. It's interesting you say that, because we do have to grapple with the fact that, look, if what we've been told by the Trump administration is true, and there have been, there have been reports that have come out from within his administration of the folks who were over there in good faith trying to negotiate. And what was said was that in the last negotiation that occurred, they came in very arrogantly and said, yeah, we already have enough nuclear fissile material for, I think, 30 warheads or something like that. And we're building ballistic missiles so that we can deliver them, on the Great Satan. So if that's true, then I would say Trump had not just every right, but every responsibility as the president of the United States,
right,
to do exactly what he did.
But that's not what he said. He said we had to attack them because we thought Israel was going to attack them, and we didn't want them to attack us and surprise us. So we attacked them first instead of Israel attacking them first and them surprising us when they attacked us. That was the first reason given, and that was
the reason that was spoken about by the Secretary of State. So I don't know if it was. I'm sure that was part of it, without a doubt. I mean, they're it is a chess game. They're going to be looking at, okay, what strategies do we got to consider, and you don't want to end up getting hit by surprise. And and so I do think that there is something to be said about, in terms of the art of war, that if we are going to do this, if we are going to commit to this, we better do it in order to win.
Right. Well, know your enemy, know yourself, and know your terrain. You'll win 1,000 battles. Mm-hmm. And so I think they absolutely know the terrain of Iran. I think they know where pretty much every missile silo is located. They know where everything is located by now. They probably had that map for 20 years.
Sure. And I guarantee you they had this plan of action mapped out well in advance, years in advance, because I used to work in that was one of the jobs that I had was I did cybersecurity. I was an ISO for Battle Labs. So I used to watch the military war games being planned out for multiple missions, and they run things through scenarios like you wouldn't believe. But now I think with the advent of AI, they're able to do it a lot faster. They're able to take into consideration a lot of things that probably, 10, 20 years ago, we didn't have the capabilities of doing. And so it for I think quicker decisions.
So let's relate something that's not related to this. So the eastward expansion of NATO over the years, slowly but surely, checkmating Russia into having to go into Ukraine. I'm friends with there's another one. The largest church in Ukraine and the largest TV network was owned by the father of a friend of mine. And he got out as soon as he heard the first shells. His father stayed, lost track of it. Don't know what's happened. But his father was in the KGB with Putin. Putin's been in his house. So there's a whole nother story there. But so the first thing we do in that particular war is we freeze $300 billion in Russian assets in central banks. Not just in the central banks that Russia had $300 billion in, we freeze it. Well, what was the result of that? So you talk about game planning out a war and that sort of thing, and what the consequences are. What that forced every nation to do is go, oh my God, if we piss off the U.S., they shut down the SWIFT system and freeze our money, and we're out of business. And so what happened as a result of that? China created their own SWIFT system. Russia created their own. Now that's different from BRICS. And Russia created their own SWIFT system. And so now they're totally independent, and they're sucking a lot of that let's call that political capital that came with control of the choke point on money. And the U.S. lost that as a result of game planning that out somehow where they didn't see that happening. So I think when they game plan it out, and this is a neophyte, and especially with AI, which I know a little bit about, you game plan so much that you lose sight of what the simplicity of it is sometimes. And I know when we've planned out complex campaigns in business, we lose sight of the simple a lot of times, that we look at these complex scenarios and really it's usually kind of simple. And so, I mean, but now we've already spent 200 billion, which is what they're telling us, which means it's 500 billion or 700 or 250. What we know is if they told us it's 200 billion, here's the one thing we know: it ain't 200 billion.
Right.
It might be less. It's probably more. Well, for 100 billion, we could have cut a canal through the UAE right there, so that the Strait of Hormuz is no longer necessary. So why don't we spend 100 billion and cut the canal through there? Well, because the people that need the money from the military industrial complex aren't going to make money off of that. And you have to feed that machine. That's why Eisenhower warned us in his farewell address. And so what we start looking at is we start looking at this situation of Iran, and don't forget that we used Iraq before we went in and get Saddam in a proxy war against Iran for, what was it, 9 years?
Yeah.
And that was us fueling Iraq to have a war with Iran so that we could get to this same kind of conclusion with Iran. So when you start looking at all these things, you got to start. What we specialize in is going way up to the top. So we have lots of people that are out there trying to fight the fentanyl thing. We have people like you fighting the, let's call it the corrupt government DOJ, the pieces of the DOJ that are corrupt. We have people that are fighting not just fentanyl, but child trafficking, people that are dealing with the divorce. All of that is not an accident. It's all caused by a plan that's being unfolded. It partially was written up very well in, I don't know if you ever read it, the PNAC, the Project for New American Century, which was given to Bill Clinton in '96. He said, I ain't touching that, but they still went through with it. And that was all the neocons. And so I'm laying some seeds here for a lot of different tentacles that take us back. And we've got to start looking at what the real cause of all this is, because we can vilify Israel and say, well, they're just power hungry and they want from from the mountains to the sea, and they see a biblical Israel with a plot of land that includes parts of Egypt, Saudi Arabia, and so the Arabs are all looking at it going, is this really what their next step is going to be? And I think they're right to think that. I don't know that that's wrong or right on Israel's part. I don't know, but they've certainly become much more aggressive. And whether that's biblically correct, we could debate that, but I've studied that out pretty well. And so, but what's really happening above all this is the people that have control. Because in DC, everybody has power and money, and the battle is for control. The power globally is for control. Because once you have power and money, that's all you're left with aspiring to get is control. And the control matrix in the world, as they were beginning to deindustrialize the United States, which was no accident, it's a part of the same plan that has this war going on in Iran right now, which is what you said earlier. There's probably a lot of reasons why we're actually in Iran right now. And I know this, that whatever's being propagated in the news is usually not the truth.
Yeah. Let's talk about that for a minute, because I see a greater picture with Iran than just Iran. I mean, this is clearly about the United States reasserting, its power in the world,
Mhm.
and it's clearly about putting China back in check. I think it
That's
had more to do with that, to be honest with you, than it ever did about, the threat of Iran. It just so happens that you had Russia engaged in a war, an all-out war with Ukraine, that you had China, for whatever reason, I think they knew that they would be reluctant to engage and get involved, although there is some evidence that they are involved, at least in supplying arms. But at the end of the day, if you're just looking at it, remove all of the morals or remove all of the whether it was politically right or not to go into this from a purely military standpoint, there was no better time than now to defeat the Islamic regime in Iran, and because they were not going to get the support of Iran, or sorry, of Russia or China, and the people were showing a willingness to rise up as well. And I think that's a real key piece here. And we'll see. Time will tell. But I believe that Trump sees that boots on the ground would be a disaster, and so I don't think he's going to do that. I think honestly, I don't even think he even wants to really, open the Straits of Hormuz, because I honestly think that we don't need any of the oil there. We don't really care about the oil there. But the problem is we with the Abraham Accords, we've made these great relationships, in the Gulf states, and that's important to them. So we do have to ensure that they can get their oil flowing again, or otherwise they find
yeah.
economic
There's
collapse.
5 countries whose oil flows through the Strait of Hormuz. Right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think
Yeah.
at the end of the day, from a just purely military standpoint and projection of power standpoint, I see that this move, provided that, and we will see how it ends up, but provided that the people can rise up,
Mhm.
obviously they're going to need some help from CIA, Mossad, and probably some of the other surrounding countries that that have close ties to Iran and to the Iranian people, but are not Islamists, which is tough. But they're going to have to rise up to take back their country and install a secular government. If that happens and the United States doesn't have to put boots on the ground, I think this ends up being a win, at least for a period of time. It might actually stabilize the region, create some peace. But if there's a boots on the ground, or if there's a significant number of civilian loss of life, I think this could backfire. So I'm praying for success.
So
And
do you know who Bob Fisk was? I think he's since died. He was the top BBC war reporter for 40 years. And he went into Syria after Assad. And I do know people that know Assad. And he was a crypto Christian, or he still is, which means he's a Christian kind of behind the scenes, but he'll act as a Muslim in public to save his skin.
Mhm.
When he kimmed his own people, which he's like, why would I do that? Bob Fisk, the BBC reporter, which is far left, obviously,
Mhm.
goes in to do an expose. I don't know if you heard about this. Alex brought him on and reported on it and that sort of thing back when this happened. I know you've been on Alex's show, I think, a few times, right? I think I've seen you there. Yeah. So he gets down there and he finds all the kids that were gassed, and they tell him the story. Yeah, they gave us candy and had us scream and cry and stuff like that, and
Mhm.
found out there was no chemicals whatsoever.
Yeah,
And
the
that it
white
was,
hats.
yeah, it was completely staged.
Yep.
And so he thinks he's got this great story because he's been this BBC award-winning reporter for 40 years, and he does the report, takes it back to BBC. They shelve it and fire him, and he's gone. So when we talk about the peace of Iran, you're presuming that there's a goal to have peace in Iran, and I would argue that there's not a goal. That the goal is to destabilize the entire region, and I think that's part of what's going on over there. I think because there's no reason to go do what we did in Syria, Why did we?
Oh, no,
Why did we go after
well,
Libya?
let's hold on.
Right?
Let's take a step back though for a minute. So Syria, Benghazi, Libya, all of those things had one thing in common, and that is that the Democrats were behind it. I mean, you and the neocons. You had
neocons. Yeah, the neocons are calling the shots, and the Dems are just the front men.
Yeah, but there was without a doubt, and it was really the the Hillary Clinton types of the world, that basically made all that happen. In fact, and I saw the situation there. There was nothing good that I think was going to come out of that, and it was clearly about running guns through Libya and getting those into Syria and creating this this catastrophe that would
well, that was the latter phase. That was the latter phase of it. The early phase was you had Libya had no taxes. If you got married, you got $50,000 towards a new home. They promoted family values throughout the place. And then when he decided he didn't want to do the petrodollar any longer, and that he was going to create his own gold-backed currency.
Okay,
suddenly a plane falls out of the sky out of Scotland, and he's the terrorist that knocked it out.
Well, so I will agree that there is there without a doubt the Iraq War, the Libya, all of those things had a common thread, and to even to your point, right? Even this war with Iran, it does have a common thread, and that is the attack against the petrodollar, which would absolutely decimate the U.S. economy because of how much cash is out there in the world, because a lot of it is out there in circulation. And if people aren't getting more of it, then we don't have a way to an excuse to just print money, and we go into hyperinflation and all of that. So I do see that there is a big threat with BRIC, with the people moving off of the petrodollar, with Iran being willing to sell oil to Russia and China, and using
they just said let's do it. What you're saying about China earlier,
without a doubt, that is definitely part of it. What I don't agree, or what I don't see, or what I see differently though, is that this war with Iran, I think, is made up of multiple points of interest, if you will. Sure, the neocons do see it a certain way. The those that are petrodollar folks, trilateral commission types, they see it a benefit to it. I do think that there is an aspect of this that and where I would disagree with you is I do think that this could actually lead to a period of peace. And I also see where, while it may have destabilized Iran, it seems that Iran's actions and their bombing of the Gulf states has actually drawn I think the leadership in the Gulf states has woken up to the reality that there's no way in hell we could ever trust Iran with nuclear weapons, and better to have a friend with Israel who clearly has the capability to attack them. And I was just I think it was just in the news today where the king of Saudi Arabia was just talking about how, look, it's not Iran, or it's not Israel's bombs dropping on us, it's Iran's bombs dropping on us.
Right.
And there's been a lot of discussion about that. So this, I think, could bring these people together. And like I said, provided that the Islamists, in Iran are removed from power. I think if they remain in power, I don't think that it would be a good thing. I think they will rebuild, because I think
what my buddy said today. I asked him that question. He said, "There's no way they're going to replace the Islamist power structure in Iran with something else unless somebody from the outside comes in and makes that happen."
And I do agree. And
it's
so
too wide, too deep, and what he said is, because Tim, 80% of the people don't care one way or the other.
Yeah.
So when you talk about the people rising up in Iran, 80% of the people aren't going to be involved in any of that.
Oh, absolutely. It's going to
be. They just want to get through today and have enough food and goat's milk to make it to the next day.
Yeah.
Right.
That's true. But on the same, on that same note though, right? I can't remember what the numbers are, but the number of people actually fought in the American Revolution, right, to liberate the United States from England was actually quite small comparative to the greater
Well, yeah,
population.
it didn't even get to 17% until the war was over.
Yeah.
That's when
And
that's that. Yeah.
so I think the strategy here is because I don't think that there is I don't think Trump has the political power to withstand criticism if we put boots on the ground. I think their goal has been to degrade the IRGC so much, and there's been an operation going on with the Crown Prince of Iran to establish a plan, if you will, for revolution.
Mhm.
And clearly there are arms that are being brought in, but it is not going to, by any means is this going to be a short quick win. They are going to have to fight from city to city to take back their country. And they're
Right.
going to have to work from the outside towards Tehran. And
And-
once
and-
they do, if they are successful, then I think that there could be a lasting peace. But until then,
Right. See, I think that, and I don't know, but I think that's just as much a chance of being a part of the lie as being a part of the solution. That's the excuse, because at the end of this, there's people that want to make money. And
Sure.
what I made my bucks on was following the money trail on everything. And I look at this as profit and loss. And there's a lot of people making a lot of money, and they're going to keep it going as long as they have to. And they've got lots of power. As you know this, there's so many different pieces to the deep state, the intelligence community. And when you get into MI6, CIA, Mossad at the top, they're the same guys. So, I mean, they're working with each other to accomplish each other's goals when it's illegal for them to do what they can't do in their own country. And so how much of that is going on in Iran? I don't think anybody can say. I don't even know if Trump knows that much.
It's hard to say, and certainly there's been some things that Israel has done. One thing that I respect a lot about Trump is that he says what he thinks, and he does not.
I loved what he said about Mueller. I thought that was great.
I haven't even seen that, but I'll tell you. No, yeah, I haven't even seen. I heard that Mueller passed away.
And I'm glad he's dead.
I'm sure that Trump said something.
I'm glad he's dead. He
but
deserved to die.
I
will
will
won't
tell
hurt
you,
any more people. That's what he said.
one of the things that Trump said the other day, and it was this was like in true Trump form, right? Was he made it clear. He came right out and said, "Hey, Israel decided to bomb those gas fields, and they did not consult with us, and I'm not happy about it. And so, because of it, the Iranians retaliated against the liquefied natural gas infrastructure in Qatar and bombed that." And he says, "So
Right.
I want you to know, I want everybody to know that we had nothing to do with bombing their oil, their oil infrastructure over there." And
Right.
because he sees it ultimately that's not we want to keep the infrastructure going.
The significance, though, of what happened in Qatar is much more. Do you know what they bombed in Qatar? The trains. You know what that is? So because Qatar is loaded with natural gas, and they have a lot of different derivatives. One of them is Qatar is the largest producer of nitrogen or fertilizer in the world.
Wow, yeah.
And they bombed one of those. There's 14 of those. Each one of them is $3 to $5 billion.
Yeah,
to build.
And that's significant because Russia, I think, was the largest producer of fertilizer, before the war.
Ukraine,
you cut off.
Yeah, Ukraine. Ukraine.
Yeah, and that's been cut off, from the rest of the world. You got places like in Africa that basically are.
Well, that's what, but this again back to my point, which is what's happening is up here. It's all coming from up here. We want 7 different countries left on the earth. We only want 500 million people. Everything that was on the Georgia Guidestones, those are principles by which they're governing the earth. And they don't have billions or trillions of dollars. They have quadrillions to do anything they want with. So what they're doing in Qatar is they've bombed 2 of those things. There's 14 of them. It takes 3 to 5 years and $3 to $5 billion to build them back. If they bombed all 14 of them, Nate, the world goes into a global famine, and a minimum, they've already gained this out, a minimum of 4 billion people die. A minimum. there's no fertilizer. The fertilizer, because it's 3 to 5 years and $3 to $5 billion for each one of those. So they bombed 2 of them, and there's 14 of them sitting there. So when Trump's talking about that, he has to know the significance of those.
Sure.
They call them trains because it's a long line process that's typical in petroleum engineering and things like that. So
yeah.
So that's what Iran was doing. We think was saying, look, we'll take the whole thing down with us if you keep bombing us.
Yeah.
Today they sent a missile towards Diego Garcia in the Indian Ocean. You see
I saw that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Fortunately, I think one of them, they had sent 2 and one died out before it got there, and the other one they were able to intercept. But
yeah. I mean, that was who knows what the real story was.
What is your take on Keir Starmer and the whole, like, one of the things that's come blatantly obvious in all of this is that NATO, and it's clear to me between what has been going on with the opening of the Arctic Sea and Trump's movement towards Greenland and saying, hey, we need Greenland, to defend the United States, which is absolutely true.
Yeah, absolutely.
Between the and the way that the Europeans have reacted to that, and between their refusal to even send ships to open the Strait of Hormuz. When you look at all of that, to me, it seems, and not even to go defend their own island, or their own bases in Cyprus. That seems to me like the European American alliance is broken.
Well, it's never been there. We've been at war with Britain.
Yeah.
At the end of the Revolutionary War, we didn't win the war. We had a negotiated peace. We traded the rights to say we won the war. They left all their troops and all their forts in America. Does that sound like we won the war? You get to keep your troops and forts in our country. And they said, but we'll have the first bank of the United States and we'll control your money supply. Boom, 1791, 20-year charter. We've been at war with, England has been against us ever since, because England controls, and when you say England, you got to take it into London Financial.
Yeah, it's really the London house.
It's the London Financial, which goes to the guys that were mentioned 12,000 times in the last Epstein drop, the Rothschilds.
Yep.
And they're there. They've been finally uncovered over the last 20-something years, and people are beginning to understand where that emanates from. So when you say the European American alliance was broken, it was BS anyway.
Yeah. It
was there to prop up the campaign that they were putting together. They funded the Bolsheviks. They funded Chiang Kai-shek and Mao Zedong in China.
Yeah,
they
was
funded
their intelligence that got us into the Iraq war.
Yeah, absolutely.
And a lot of the other things too that have been coming out that I've been really shocked about is they have been, especially particularly in London, it's their offshore accounts that have been basically, the Iranians have been running, the Islamic regime in Iran has been running their money through. And so they have basically been, at the forefront of all of this. And in fact, there was some of the financing from the IRGC that came through those banks that ended up ultimately funding the attack on 9/11. And that's something not talked about. And there's a lot. There is a lot that has not been ever brought forward or declassified.
All right, so I don't know how much a Pandora's box we want to throw open here, but 9/11 was a planned psyop, right? You know that, right?
I've come to the listen. I don't know that I will go so far as to say that I believe that the United States leadership planned it, but I certainly do think that there was something that it's almost like Pearl Harbor, like they basically turned a blind eye when they knew something was coming.
Did you read Day of Deceit on Pearl Harbor? And my father-in-law, who landed at Normandy, marched with Patton to the Battle of Budge, always said, no, that Pearl Harbor, he didn't know, he just knew, kind of thing. He's just old country boy. He says they knew about Pearl Harbor. He would always say that. Then the book Day of Deceit comes out. It just lays out how FDR planned the whole thing. The FDR planned Pearl Harbor. he couldn't get America was still in isolationism and didn't want to go to war. And they planned out the whole Pearl Harbor. They made sure they got what was it, 2 of the aircraft carrier groups out and left all the other ships in as sitting ducks. And there hasn't been a war, Nate, since the Revolutionary War that wasn't begun with a psyop. Civil War was a psyop. The Civil War was Britain trying to split America apart. And it was all about money. The Tsar of Russia in 1870. I can take you through what I did. I sold a business in 2008, 2009. And I decided, and I was waking up then. Because before then, I believed everything that I was told about apple pie and Chevrolets and all that stuff. And so I had the time to read. And my poor family, and that's when I discovered Aaron Russo and Jim Tucker and Jim Mars and Alex Jones and all these people. But then back then, the internet had all the information on it still. It's all been scrubbed off since then. And I would come out of a room of studying. I'd read 16 hours a day, and voraciously. And I'd come out and I'd come out to get something to eat. My family, what are you doing? I go, I was cussing, man. I was so mad. It's so evil. It's just so evil. Well, they got real tired of hearing that. But you know what? They're all saying that now in the last couple of years. They're all saying the same thing. It's so evil. They're so evil because all this stuff is finally being undone. But what I learned is there's all these versions of history throughout history.
Sure.
Well, why? Because those who control the past control the future. So if I want to control the past, why did they come in and start tearing down all of our statues of Thomas Jefferson, George Washington, Abraham Lincoln's statue got removed?
Crazy.
Right? Why did they do that? Well, that's to control the past so they can control the future. Communists have done that in every country they've gone into. Right?
Yeah.
So you start looking at this incredible history that we have in all these different versions, and it becomes very frustrating because you don't know the truth. It's hard to tell because there's all these. But what I noticed is that when you study history and you get these different versions of why the Civil War was fought or why the Revolutionary was fought or anything, any event, why we have the IRS, why Lincoln was killed, all these different things. You get all these different versions of history that are credible. But they always quote the players the same way because that can't be changed. They don't change what was said. So the 1.5 ounces of revelation I had was to say, I can depend on the quotes. The quotes are always there. And so what I did, and this goes to Iran and why my perspective is not, oh, well, there's the good guys and the bad guys, which I know that's not what you're saying, but I'm oversimplifying to make a point. Is I looked at it and I went, if I put all these quotes on a timeline from A to Z, I needed an A and a Z. You need a continuum, right? That gives you, if you get A and B, you can project to C. And so I put them all on a timeline and I needed a beginning. So my source of truth is the Bible. So I went to the Bible and John says about 30 years after Jesus, the spirit of the Antichrist is already in the world. And then he says on Patmos, Jesus tells him, here's what it's going to look like. There's going to be this mark. Without it, people won't be able to buy or sell. Now, understand, he's not saying the whole world won't be able to buy or sell. He's just saying without that mark, you won't be able to buy or sell. Because you have to also factor in what Jesus said, that I'll never leave you or forsake you. Mm-hmm. And so we've come through with the Hal Lindsey, Tim LaHaye, Rapture World stuff that began in the 50s, which was actually began back in the 1800s, but was popularized in the culture in the beginning in the 50s. And so I looked at all of this and I said, okay, I have a beginning and end, and money is dependable, Nate. You know that if you were in cybersecurity, money doesn't lie. You come look at my bank account, you're going to see brisket burgers and steak.
Interestingly enough, when I blew the whistle, what I blew the whistle on, what I brought and carried out of the FBI and brought to the IG's office was mostly suspicious activity reports that showed the entire money trail for Clinton Foundation and all of that. And it doesn't lie.
Which is beyond belief corrupt. Did anybody get in trouble for that?
Nope. They're still walking around.
And nobody, Lynn Scott Hagerman, right?
Mm-hmm.
Trafficked at birth, practically at birth.
Yep.
I was talking the other day. Nobody got in trouble for what they did to you, did they? No. Is anybody going to get in trouble for Epstein? No, guarantee. No. I've been telling everybody I know, because I've watched this and I've studied it. Nobody's going to get in trouble because too many people are involved.
And it's not just, here's the thing, it's not just people on the left either. It is, if you notice, if you go and you take a look at half of Congress, probably, they have family foundations.
Yeah.
And those foundations are not about charitable. They're not about charity and charitable works.
No.
It's about money laundering. I mean, that's really what it is.
The whole thing is money laundering.
Yeah.
The whole thing. The military industrial complex is money laundering, which don't get me into that one, because that ties in. The term money laundering ties into why we came off of the gold standard. And that's another.
I agree.
Here's things.
Here's the problem with all of it. It's easy to recognize, okay, money laundering, it's a problem. This corruption, it's clearly infected our government. It's infected our country. It is basically what gives the elite an advantage over everybody. They've got all the tax loopholes. They have all the means of money laundering. They have all the means of being able to keep the wealth that they have in their families. The military industrial complex is, as Eisenhower warned, rather than sue for peace, they will always sue for war, because it's more financially viable for them. And even if it's not, us being directly in a war, they will get other countries to fight against each other so they can sell arms to both sides. That has always been around, and that'll always be. But there was something else, though, that Eisenhower said in that speech that people do not talk about. And I think it's just as important, which is that he said, look, I recognize we have to have an armistice industry, because we cannot again find ourselves in World War II and have to turn all of our factories into tank and munitions makers and all of that. He said, I worry about this other piece of it. So I do kind of see it as like a balance, right? This war in Iran, to me, is that same thing. There are bad people with evil intentions that absolutely wanted us to get into this war. And I think that there were also necessary reasons why Trump had to get us into this war. But I think he's clearly playing by his rules and not by theirs. They're not very happy about it. And that's clearly, I think, why Lloyd's of London pulled out and said, we're not going to finance, we're not going to insure any of the ships. I think that was done to hurt Trump. And I think that there are those who would absolutely want to see disaster so that this Trump legacy, this MAGA legacy, goes away permanently. They want to end that. And the best way to do that is to destroy Trump's legacy through this war. So I think he's got to be very careful. And I'm praying that we get out of this, and and that there can be a successful end to this. The one thing, though, but in that, right, the whole point of me saying that is that I think there's competing interests, that you can have two interests in something, and it, just like there are people who use these foundations in order to, I don't think there's anything wrong about trying to keep wealth in your family and trying to, maintain and whatever means you can, to get out of paying, taxes. Because I think taxes are in many ways, it's theft from the government. So it reminds me when Trump was asked about, why, we want to see your taxes. We want to know, you haven't paid your fair share and all that. He goes, look, I've used the loopholes, and I think he was talking to Hillary Clinton, that you created. So I see that there are some things that are.
That's the thing Dave Chappelle went on Saturday Night Live and made fun of.
Yes.
He was really admiring it, but it's acting like he was.
Exactly.
He said, "I just did what was there. I just took what was there for me."
Yeah.
Here's a good one that most people don't know. We'll get off of that and come back to it real quick. Why are your taxes collected on April 15th?
That's a good question. I have no idea. Well,
again, history tells you everything when you study it correctly. Abraham Lincoln, these are these quotes that are in history. There's three events that changed our history, Nate: killing of Lincoln, the Schofield Bible's propagation, and the killing of JFK. And there's a whole thing to that. But the killing of Lincoln, didn't have the Tsar of Russia, who rescued America during the Civil War. I don't know if you're aware that Lincoln had to reach out to him because at the beginning of the war, the French had already amassed in Canada and the British already had their troops in Mexico. Did you know that?
I did not know that.
That was at the bit. And this
But
used to be.
It doesn't surprise me because, again, if there's a just from a military strategy standpoint, you take advantage of those weak moments, and that's when you strike.
Well, it was, but that's not what it was. It wasn't taking advantage of a moment. It was an orchestrated plan to destroy the America, because America was growing. Why was America growing? What we were taught about the American Revolutionary War: no taxation without representation. That's what it was.
They'd be rolling in their graves.
Bill Clinton. No, it was as much about money as anything, but more so, it was about Jesus Christ. That when they ran into battle, they didn't scream "no taxation." What did they scream when they ran into battle? Do you know?
For
no king but King Jesus.
Yeah.
Because they knew. Everybody knew back then King George was a sick pedophile. He had children in his court. He would rape them. I mean, he was sick.
Yeah.
This is a sick dude, man. And they knew that. So all of that ties into the British wanting to, which is back to London Financial, wanting to take over America. But America was growing so much because they resisted the central banking system. And the London Financial Group, which became British military after the battle at Waterloo, it was all the same thing, right? And they owned the South already. All the South's cotton went to England. That's where they made all their money. They controlled the South already. They had meetings with the leaders of the South saying, let's go to war with the North. And the South was like, we got pitchforks and they got factories. And they just, don't worry about it. We own all the banks. And they were like, what does that mean? So as soon as the war starts, they pull all the loans from all the manufacturers in the North. And Lincoln's public comment at that time, all this ties back into Iran. And I can make that jump. What Lincoln says in public is, oh God, I'm fighting two armies, the Southern Army in front of me and the bankers to my rear. And by far the worst of the two are the bankers to my rear. This is Nate Cain following the money trail on Uranium One, right? It's the same thing. And then Dick, I forgot his name. His friend from Illinois comes in and says, just print the money and give it to them. They pulled all the loans. As soon as that war started, the northern banks pulled all the loans from the manufacturers in the North, who go to Lincoln and go, we have no money. That's when he says in that meeting, used to be in all the history books, got erased. My God, London Financial, again, own all of our banks and we didn't even know it. So I can't believe I forgot this guy's name. Dick something other, came from Illinois. He's called the father of the greenback. He says, just print the money and loan it to him, 0 interest. And Lincoln tells him it can't be that simple. This relates to how simple it is for us to get out of our problems that we are facing in America, which is total tyranny. And Nate, it's a midterm election. We're going to lose the Senate and the House. There's no way you're not going to lose the Senate and the House. The only question remaining is, will you lose 60% of the Senate and the House? And I know the Dems and the neocons are joining together. I could go into that as a whole nother story to get 60% of the Senate and the House.
Well, I think this is the largest. I look at things that Trump does, and I see a much bigger picture than just like, for example, his removal, his massive, buildup of ICE and Border Patrol to stop the inflow of illegals, his going into, these sanctuary cities and removing illegals. It is not just about the illegals and the public safety threat. It is also about removing people whose names are on the voter rolls.
It's votes. So they brought in
who don't vote, but whose names are on the voter rolls, and those names are used for
Wait.
ballots.
30 million people, most of them were given social security numbers, new
right.
names, and hidden away in blue cities and blue states. Andrew Breitbart said in 2011, back to quotes, politics is downstream from culture, Nate.
Yeah.
Right. You want a good example of that recently?
Election integrity stuff's coming out now because I think they know they've got to get this. They got to start prosecuting people, and they got to start bringing this down.
You know the Flynn's. They were in D.C. for the last year trying to fix the election integrity issues. We can't even get Tina Peters out of jail. They told me it's screwed. There's no way to. It's not going to happen.
Listen, I will tell you. Yeah. I have a very good friend of mine, Harry Howry, business partner. We've done a lot of work on election integrity together. After the 2020 election, I got so damaged. My company got so damaged from attacks by the left, and also I got pulled into an investigation, legitimate investigation, where we found the Chinese were engaged.
Oh yeah,
in our election voter registration, and I had the evidence. The solid evidence collected with FBI guidelines so that it could have been used in court. There was a grand jury that had issued the warrant and the search warrant. My company was hired to do the search. We collected it. We had evidence. We still have that evidence. And it was the George Soros funded DA, George Gascon, who killed it. He basically dropped all the charges.
What city is that?
That was in it was in Michigan. But it was a grand jury and search warrant that was issued out of Los Angeles.
Do you do any work with that with Jovan Hutton?
I know Jovan very well. Yeah, I've not worked with him on anything, but I do know him, and we've talked a lot, and we had a little bit of working together on some stuff after the 2020 election, but he's got his own thing that he kind of focuses on that has been his expertise.
Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead if you're.
Well, I was just
show.
Yeah,
it's your show. Don't let me take over.
No. So I was just saying that
we'll lose our audience real quick.
Basically, the gist of it is this: I can understand people being jaded on the whole subject of whether or not election integrity is ever going to happen in this country. I myself am jaded. I have, basically had many opportunities where people have asked me, hey, will you join in on this national effort? And I just flat out tell them, no, I'm not going to. I will work in my own state to work on election integrity in my own state, because in my state level, I know the people who are involved. I know the Secretary of State here. I've got good relations. I know, and we have a majority, Republican state legislature. We are working to secure our elections here. Is it happening as fast as I would like? No, but it's moving in the right direction. I think that's the best effort anybody can do is at that local level.
I'm not the least. I'm more like a trend forecaster. So I look at. It's hard for me to get this. Here, here's A, here's B, here's C, here's D. I can project where E is going to be, right? And so when you study this out, Texas, for example, so they brought 30 million people in.
Yeah.
I'm going to keep going back to some things. Politics is downstream from culture, Nate. Now, you didn't ask the right question, Nate. If I tell you that and you study it out, you'll find it's very true. I'll give you a great immediate example. They sent ICE into Minnesota. Who repelled them? The culture repelled them. The culture dominated the government because politics is downstream from culture. All those people that are paid and brainwashed and all that, everything together, they wanted to make sure they got a killing. And once they got a killing, ICE was done. And they're run out of Minnesota by the culture, Nate. The culture dominant because politics is down. That's why the Dems and more than that, the neocons have always put all their money into controlling the culture because that controls the narrative. Now, the question you got to ask, if that's true, and it's 100% true, and I can go through 200 years of history, and well, really the last 120 is when it really became true. But what's upstream from culture, Nate? That's what you got to be looking at. That's what we've been studying for 3 years. That's what we spent a lot of money in figuring out. What's upstream from culture is media. And this is why this historical perspective begins to take on really important an importance so that people, because it'll wake you up, because you'll go, oh my God, it's like when you first figured out. because there's a point where you were in the FBI and you thought the FBI was good and that
Sure.
they were going to do the right thing, and we were out to do
it was the proudest day when I joined the FBI and was, went in and get my fingerprints, and I was so proud, to be a part of that organization. And it didn't take long for me to figure out what they were really about.
But the FBI, just like the CIA, but the FBI more so than the CIA, was sowed in total, complete corruption. Did you
Sure.
know that?
Yeah.
It was J.P. Morgan and all those guys. They invented, at the same time, they brought into America psychiatry. They funded Sigmund Freud. They funded Charles Darwin in evolution. In England, all of a sudden, they began to run ads saying, if you find a dinosaur bone, we'll pay you a big money. And suddenly, all over England, for the first time in history, people started finding dinosaur bones. They funded Karl Marx and communism. More importantly, in the same year that they funded the FBI, because they were bringing in communism in the United States. All of this ties into what's going into Iran right now, Nate, because once you start looking at A, B, C, D, and E, and you get to F, and F is Iran, you're going to come to a different conclusion, just like you had to come to a different conclusion when you started to going, wait, there's something wrong with the FBI, right? I saw that with my friend who came from Iran, and the FBI is the one that brought them over, and he's lifelong friends and still friends with that guy. And I've been in meetings that you can't believe with people, the NSA and all kinds of stuff, because they've been after this guy, even though he's in America.
Mm-hmm.
And they being the American government, not Iran. And I had to watch that FBI agent, who was the most down-to-earth, good guy, finally wake up one day and go, this isn't the FBI I know. This just isn't the FBI I know. And
I've had that
in
conversation with many guys
Yeah.
that, were just saw what had happened. And really it boils down to, I think, there's always been problems anytime you have authority and there's no accountability over that authority. And unfortunately, I don't know how you create accountability for an organization that is at the top of the food chain. And that, I mean, let's face it, Congress can hold hearings all they want, but they have no authority over the executive. They have the purse strings. They could defund them,
if they get to 60%, they have all the authority they want.
Yeah, but they won't do it.
And look, here's how bad it is. And this isn't being jaded. I know what the solution to this thing is. You have to analyze the problem correctly. And we keep analyzing it in this thing of, well, is Iran good? Is Iran bad? I'm telling you, it has nothing to do with Iran. It's the globalist faction operating to accomplish a plan that is much further along in America than anybody wants to admit, because if they get to 60% in November, America's over. It's over. They will impeach Trump, Kennedy, and Vance day one, and they will remove them quickly, and they'll be gone. They'll put 23 or 25 people on the Supreme Court, and nobody can stop them at that point. Now, this is their plan. This isn't theory. This is what they're telling us they're going to do. All right. So that's why this is much more serious. So if you want bottom line, Iran, that's a distraction. It's a distraction from everything that's important. Most important is election integrity, which I don't think we'll ever get there. I don't think they'll ever get there.
Well, the problem, again, it comes down to Congress. Congress has the authority. If we had a supermajority, they would have the authority to fix some of these issues, because they, under the Constitution, even though, yes, the states have the right to run elections how they see fit,
right?
It does say the Congress can change that. They can make rules, and they have done that in the past, and it's been successful. But the problem is that nothing that they have done, like even right now, if you destroy evidence pertaining to, if you violate the Civil Rights Act and you go and destroy evidence pertaining to voting in an election, it's like a $5,000 fine and 1 year in jail. It's nothing to be worried about.
That's longer than raping a kid in California now.
Well, it's true. Or New York. New York, you don't even they get you out without bail. So it's crazy to think that there's any deterrent for these guys. It should be a 20-year sentence for tampering with, elections.
You just keep making my point for me. You're in the final throes of communism, Nate.
Yeah.
All right. Stalin said 90% of communizing a country is a central bank. All right. So back to this, all ties together to Iran because it's all being orchestrated. There's a reason why we're in Iran that we know. There's one that Trump knows. And then there's the reason that these people that are orchestrating the world. We can't get Tina Peters out of jail. She did everything right. We can't even get her out of prison. He passed an executive order. They just said, screw you. We don't have to obey that in Colorado. And they're right. They don't.
Yeah, no, they're right because of separation of powers.
Well, he doesn't make laws, right?
Yeah.
The Congress makes laws.
And he has no veto authority or no pardon authority over, state crimes.
Right. So you go back. I'm going to take you back again. So Lincoln, God, I can't believe I can't remember. Dick something other comes in. I wish I got to look that up. But the guy comes and says, just print the money and give them the money. So they loan the money out at zero interest, and the Northern economy booms. Lincoln then says, which used to be in the history books, this is where we win, Nate. What I'm saying sounds jaded. What I'm saying sounds black pill. It's not. It's ripping off the Band-Aid to look at the freaking wound so that we can assess it and fix it correctly. Because we keep thinking we're going to fix voter integrity. That's the only one we might get some headway on, but I'd seriously doubt it. Because they're already cutting pieces out of the SAFE Act in the Senate. They're leveraging Trump on that to get John Cornyn here in Texas reelected. And I assure you, if John Cornyn gets the nomination, because Trump endorses him, because he has to do that to get what's left of the SAFE Act passed, Tallarico will be the new senator from Texas, because the quote unquote MAGA, which is being dissipated right now, just like the Proud Boys, just like the Oath Keepers, just like the Tea Party. When you take this thing head on, Nate, you're not going to beat it. You have to analyze the problem in the terms that Andrew Breitbart said, and everybody should have stopped the whole world and looked at what he said. Politics is downstream from culture. You got to say what's upstream. And when you analyze that and you look at it in history, you'll find media is upstream. So now how do you take the media is the question. And that's where they're most vulnerable. They're most vulnerable at that point because there's really simple examples through history on how to win that battle. Because if you do that, you'll tump the dominoes over and you'll get to your election integrity, because election integrity is downstream from politics, Nate.
Well, so there has been this interesting thing that has occurred where you used to have an elite controlled media. It was the power brokers that basically own and controlled the media.
Right.
And now they don't. I mean, they still own and control the mainstream media, but they don't own and control social media. But the problem is you have another issue now that has arisen, and that is in social media. You have all the bots, you have all of the foreign influence and all of this other stuff where anybody can inject whatever message they want to inject. And unfortunately, the way that the algorithm is designed, it becomes a bias feedback loop. So you just keep getting.
Well, with the breakthrough this week, I don't know if you saw that with NVIDIA's partnership with OpenClaw. Are you familiar with what all that is?
No, I haven't read about it.
So you know what a robot is, right? Yeah. And you know what AI is. Well, an agent, if you've heard that word, an agent is right. That's a software. That's a robot that's just all software, right? Well, with OpenClaw has advanced that down to the point where it's almost user friendly. So you can start, and it can take over your computer and do anything on your computer you want it to do. But they had a security issue. NVIDIA stepped in, solved the cybersecurity side of that at an enterprise level, and now are giving their engineers $100,000 a year each to explode this. And you're talking, we are so close. I've got so much going in this area. We are so close to being in this agentic revolution that was scheduled for 2027, 2028. It's happening this year. There's no way to stop it now.
Yeah.
And so now what I can do, I know I can do this right now. I could set up 10,000 agents. I can set up 10,000 agents with 20 different social media accounts, and I can post 1,000 things a day to there on each one of those, 10,000 times 1,000 a day. And I don't have to touch it after I set it up. All right. So that's me. Where's China at that? Because the AI has been in place, as you know, for 20 something years now. Where's China at with that? Where's Iran at with that? Where's Israel at with that? Knowing that Israel's not just all for America, they're all for Israel.
That's right. And they have some of the best cybersecurity I've ever seen. I mean,
Right.
Tel Aviv University's got some of the best stuff coming out of there in terms of just innovation with cyber.
Well, I know a little about that only because the guy that runs our cybersecurity in our project was the guy that led I guess I could say this, the Raytheon teams that built all the military cybersecurity systems. He was the lead on it. And if you get the top 10 cybersecurity guys on the planet in a room, he's probably going to be one of those 10. And you would like this guy a lot, really sharp dude. But what's about ready to happen with what we thought was an information explosion with the internet is about ready to go so crazy, it's going to be hard to believe. And then you had the Musk saying today, they were talking about, well, everybody's going to have a robot here pretty soon. He says, no, everybody's going to have hundreds of robots, not agents, the software robots, actual physical robots. You see I mean, this all ties into what you're talking about and what I'm talking about. Everything is changing. We're in this fourth turning. You're having this absolute revolution of everything that's happening. And we got fifth generation warfare, if you read General Flynn's book. Happening, and that was an eye opener for me. But I look at I know full well we know the answer. You have to take back the media because that will control the culture. Because when Lincoln printed the money and handed it out for free, he says to the public, "We've just given the American people the greatest gift we can give them: their own currency, free of debt." That's not 1863. The Tsar of Russia, which was Tsar Alexander II. Says in 1871, after rescuing America from the British and the French, and that we didn't finish that story. He says that war, the Civil War, had nothing to do with slavery. It was all about the financial interest of Europe, London, financial, Rothschild, and he even said that. Well, they then tried to kill him 5 times, Nate. He died on the 5th assassination 10 years later in 1881. All of this ties to the questions on Iran, because all of this is being orchestrated from above. It's not a local conflict. It's not just Israel and Iran. It's not Jews and Muslims. That's not those are the front. They even said, and they've even wrote in the plans that came out with Operation Lockstep, which was by the Rockefeller Foundation, the project, they were going to destabilize the Middle East and export terror to the West. The exact words were in that: export terror to the West. That's our own people that wrote that. That's Paul Wolfowitz and Dick Cheney, and Bill Kristol, right? Who was the greatest example of conservatism, we thought. Him and George Will. I was brought up going, George Will and
I know. I used to read
Bill Kristol are conservatives. I should listen to them. And I would listen to them going, well, that must be true. No, man, they were. So Lincoln, I'm telling you, Abraham Lincoln, John F. Kennedy, and Schofield Bible solve our problems right now. It's not election integrity, because if we get anything on that, it's going to be just a little. And you're still fighting what you brought up. They've got 30 million people brought in that we're never going to find because they've already given them new names. They've hidden them away in blue states and blue cities.
My argument would be that I don't think it's a matter of finding them so much as it's a matter of we've got to, and the only one that can do is Congress, and they're not going to have, there's not the will to change it because we don't.
They're being paid not to.
But there is without a doubt, illegals' names are being used in the voter registration in order to propagate counterfeit ballots.
Oh yeah,
and as long as that exists. Yeah. Then we will never have honest elections in this country.
I'm going to go back to Lincoln, but in Texas, 2 weeks before the last primary, which was almost 2 weeks ago, we had a 30-point swing in a red district for a state Senate election on a special election. 30-point swing. Because you got another factor that you might not be aware of. The Hispanics are pissed off. One of my partners is one of the top Hispanics for Trump. And I've got an earful from not just Hispanic pastors, but pastors of churches all over the country, especially all over Texas, who are going, we will not support Trump because Kristi Noem, her job was to go in and show Trump how many more deportations they had each week, because that's how he manages, by variable analysis. And so he's looking, did we increase it? Yeah, good. We had a 12% increase. All right, next week, let's try for 13%. And so she'd come back. Well, they can't find the 30 million people because they've all got blue city, blue states, and they're hidden away and they're protected by the police and everything. So she's got people standing outside of big churches, I know firsthand in Texas, waiting on people with brown skin, just like they said, to arrest them. And you're taking out people that have been here for 30 years and 40 years, not the 30 men that were brought in to destroy our country, because they can't get those. So now she's gone. So now you've alienated the Hispanic vote. Not completely. 2 weeks in politics is a lifetime, so it can always be one back. See, I'm not black pill. I'm trying to be realistic about this thing. And so what's going to happen if we have a 30-point swing in a red district in Texas for a state Senate seat? What's the rest of the country going to be like? It's going to be a lot worse.
Yeah, I could see that. I'm seeing the fracturing even within the Republicans here in West Virginia, and not something I ever thought I would see, but there's clearly two factions, right? You have those that still support Trump, and you have those that kind of support Trump, but they absolutely do not support this war. They don't support even what he did in Venezuela, which I don't understand how you could not support what he did in Venezuela.
Venezuela, I was for doing in Venezuela what they started in Iran.
Yeah.
I think that was the move to make in Venezuela.
Well, and I think that again, though, I think that there's a bigger play here towards China. If you think about, like, what did Trump do? The very first thing that he did with his Secretary of State Marco Rubio, very first thing, he said, "Go down to Panama and get the Chinese the hell out of there." That was the first thing that he did. First thing.
And they had military intervention there. Not many people know that.
I think for 4 years, I think Trump was planning, he was watching the world, seeing what was going on and making plans. And he had that luxury of being able to, have some inside knowledge, but also not be in the hot seat being, looked at. And I think there was a lot of planning going on as to what he was going to do, in the first year of his.
So after the neocons took over, China, I think we'd agree. China is the ultimate enemy here.
Yeah.
I mean, London kind of controls China to a degree.
We could be working, I think that the Democrats pushed Russia into, the arms of China. I think was one of the biggest mistakes geopolitically that our country has made in, a very long time. And I think that, we could very easily rebuild our relationship, with Russia and pull them away from China.
Putin wants to have the relationship.
Absolutely.
100%. And that's another story. So then Lincoln, I'm going to take you back there.
All right. Yep.
So he prints up $385 million, green ink on the back. It's called that's where the greenback came from. And he distributes that money. The economy goes crazy. He has to get reelected in 1864. He has to make a deal with the Democrats. And he takes Andrew Johnson, a Democrat from Tennessee, as his vice president. He gets reelected. The inauguration was held in March that year. He renews the financial policy. Now, think about this. If the government prints the money and loans it out at zero interest, what institution is no longer necessary? What's the only time Jesus got so pissed off he turned over the tables? The money changers.
Yeah.
The banking industry, essentially. So Lincoln renews that policy in 1865. That's in March of 1865. He's shot on April 14th, but he dies on April 15th, Nate. Now, what happened then is Johnson is put in the presidency. He's a patsy, just like Harry Truman was. Same people put in Truman, by the way.
That's interesting, by the way. I've got a theory about that I think there are so many ties to vice presidents being inserted by the CIA.
Oh, yeah.
And then somebody gets assassinated every time, and that now you have a guy in charge.
The true story of Truman will be in my book. It's
so many of these presidencies.
So what happens though? This ties back into the solution. Okay, you got to understand this to understand this. How close we are to the solution right now, because it's not going to be in voter integrity. It's not. We gotta avoid giving up 60% of the House and the Senate. That's the only battle we have right now.
Yeah,
because the least amount of seats you're going to lose in the midterm in the House is 20, and in the Senate it's 6 to 8. That's the least. That's without cheating. That's without Hispanics dropping out. That's without a split between MAGA and neocon Bushite traditional Republicans, which is a huge schism right now, especially in Texas. All right.
Mm-hmm.
It's in Florida too. It's in Georgia. And so they began, you've heard of the robber barons, right? Rockefeller and and all those guys. So they take over the American marketplace first, Nate. And that's what they did in the last 30 years of the 19th century. As they're funding Karl Marx for communism as their political systems, Alexander Solzhenitsyn said of that, communism is the political embodiment of Satan. He's exactly right. As they were bringing in Sigmund Freud and psychiatry, not to help people, to replace the pastor and priest as the confidant of the family, because they were planning the destruction of the family. All of this is back then. These are all written plans all the way back into the 1700s. And they've taken this long to enact it. And America has been in the way. And so they spend those last 30 years, they fund Charles Darwin for evolution, which is just absolutely insane, but that's a different rabbit hole. And then they fund the Schofield Bible.
Mm-hmm.
And what they did with the Schofield Bible, I don't know how much you know about that, but it's the first time they put notes telling people what the scriptures meant. Now, back to no king but King Jesus and the Revolutionary War. What drove America was not just that. You have to go back to the covenant that Robert Hunt made in 1608 in Virginia with God. And that's an amazing story. But all of that began, the spirit of America in the 1600s and 1700s and 1800s was based on Genesis. Take dominion and subdue the earth. That was what drove America. Take dominion, subdue the earth. Right? Mm-hmm. The Schofield Bible comes in, and for the first time, they put what each scripture meant. The Untermeyer brothers, you ever heard that name, the Untermeyers?
No, I haven't heard that name.
2 Ashkenazi Jews that were Satanists. They also brought Aleister Crowley in from London. Aleister Crowley brought the Church of Satan.
I'm very familiar with him.
Right. And he stayed with who? The Pierce family. Barbara Pierce Bush, right? So all of these things, we're ruled by Satanists. That's what got, what was the guy, Stanley Kubrick killed, as he began to talk about Satanists and child rapists are ruling the earth. Next thing you know, he's dead, not making any more movies. And so they're planning their central bank. And you're familiar, you probably read Creature from Jekyll Island by G. Edward and all that, know all that. They have all this planned out. They've game planned all this. Psychiatry, evolution, communism was going to be their political system. They needed federal police to enforce communism.
Sure.
They invent the FBI. They spend $5 million in 1908, Nate, propagating the Schofield Bible. Well, people back then, for the first time, they were getting a Bible that's telling them what each scripture meant. And they make up, based on dispensationalism, which was created in junk by John Darby from the 1800s. And they took Cyrus Schofield stuff, who was, boy, you read his life story, it's like, why was this guy put in jail? And they put that all together in the Schofield Bible, and they started changing meanings of scriptures in the notes. And the main one that they changed, that began because they were all Ashkenazis and they were Satanists. All right, they were Ashkenazis and Satanists, and i.e. they were Zionists. And they said, those who bless Israel will be blessed, and those who curse Israel will be cursed, which is not what it says. And you read your Bible, and that's not in there. And then you go into Galatians, and if you go to Galatians 3, 16 through 19, Paul will define that for you very clearly. It's Jesus. The seed of Abraham is Jesus, and those who come through Jesus. I can read it for you if you want, but I'll leave that out.
Listen, where he talks about the the grafting in and the the cutting off the branches that do not produce fruit and all of that. I understand that and agree with that. But I do believe that there is a historical, there's plenty of scriptures that talk about Israel, the land itself, belonging to God, and that there being an everlasting covenant with
No, you won't find that, Nick. No, that's not in there. I've studied this. That's not in there, dude. That's not in there. Now to Abraham and his seed were the promises made. This is Paul. He does not say, and to seeds as of many, but as to one, and to your seed, who is Christ. And this is say that the law, which was 430 years later, because the law came after all that, cannot annul the covenant. So the law didn't have any effect on the covenant. And he goes on to say, for if the inheritance is of the law, it is no longer of the promise. But God gave it to Abraham by promise. What purpose then does the law serve? It was added because of transgressions, till the seed should come to whom the promise was made. It has nothing to do with a piece of land, Nate. Nothing. Now, 3 years ago, I wouldn't have known that. I've studied this. I've got volumes on this, dude. And you can cut through it. It never existed, Nate, until the Scofield Bible was printed and said that and translated it that way. And they spent $5 million in advertising, and then they gave Scofield Bible with the notes, with sermons based on the notes that they had ingested their own interpretations into. And they gave those sermons to the pastors, who then preached the rapture, which is the first time that was brought up.
Now, I do agree that the rapture and that whole
it's all the same thing. It's all the same thing.
I think a false doctrine.
It's all the same thing.
I see that supports that.
You read Jesus in Matthew 24, and you'll see. So, but here's what happened. All right, but again, you can't just go, well, put it in history like I'm telling you, and you're going to see a different truth, because it changed everything. We went from America first, take dominion, subdue the earth, to it's about the rapture and it's about Israel coming. Now, here's what happened. The sermons that the preachers began to preach was all about the second coming of Christ. The rapture's here. It's all about Israel. We got to get everything ready for Israel. And the church is filled up because people thought they were getting ready to be taken up in a rapture. So they kept preaching it. They funded the Dallas Theological Seminar, Moody Bible Institute, and put that doctrine in there. Now, Nate, these are Satanists that did all this. It didn't exist before that. And it changed the entire fabric of our country. And then they brought in the central bank. Then they set about taking over the media, which they did almost immediately, to take over the culture, Nate. They didn't take over the culture until 1963 when they killed Kennedy. Because in the 1950s, we were still hunting down communists in America. Our culture was hunting down communism. But it switched. The final blow was the killing of Kennedy. And the culture spun, and 10 years later, we're killing babies. All of that is tied to the Scofield Bible and its lie that those who bless Israel will be blessed and those who curse Israel will be cursed. Let me use your eyes, Nate. Anybody that sees this, use your dang eyes. In 1950, if you go down every metric of happiness in America, we were 1,000% better than we are right now. Everything, our money's been destroyed, our families have been destroyed, our inner cities have been destroyed, our small towns have been destroyed, our highways have been destroyed. Everything in America has been destroyed. We're the only country blessing Israel over the last 75 years. That's just common sense. Well, but see, if you say this, you're an anti-Semite. No.
Well, okay, well, hold on a minute though. Look at all the nations that have attacked Israel. It hasn't gone so well for them. So I could make the same argument that, hey, look, those who have attacked Israel have it's led to their destruction.
Well, let's go back to the scripture that we're told what that means, which is not in the Bible. We're just told that's what it means. Those who bless Israel will be blessed, those who curse. Abu Dhabi is the most blessed place I've ever seen. They're not blessing Israel. China's economy has been exploded. They're not blessing Israel. Russia's economy is doing great, by the way. I don't know if you've caught up on all that, but the Russian economy is doing really, really good, in spite of the fact that they got all these things against them because of the Ukrainian war, which is manufactured. But it's not about hating Israel. It's about believing the lie that we're supposed to be blessing Israel, so we'll be blessed. That's nowhere in there. It doesn't exist. It's all based on the 7 dispensations by Darby that they then did an aberration of and created those scriptures the meanings of what this means. And where's our blessing, man? Where is it? I don't see it.
Well, I think that our nation,
we're in the
for all the
final
good
throes
that
of
we do in the
communism.
world, I think we've done a lot of bad too. And I think
Well-
that it's look, God's judgment doesn't just fall on a nation over, one passage of, blessing Israel or blessing the seed of Abraham. I think it matters about what we are doing as a nation. When you look at what was going on in the last administration, we were propagating all kinds of ungodliness around the world. We were basically pushing this transgenderism crap all around the world.
Oh, yeah.
Abortion, something that basically got pushed by our country. In fact,
Yeah,
that's what the
England
whole
just
Mexico policy
England
was
just
all
approved
about.
it up to nine. England just approved it up to 9 months now.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And if you look historically at those nations that were destroyed by God, they all have one thing in common. They were killing their children.
Oh yeah,
They're
no, that's
killing the most
you know that.
innocent.
The final stage of any society is that the children are no longer safe, and they
Yep.
eat them and rape them and kill them, right? And
Yep.
we're there, right? So there was 1 million children brought in with that 30 million. The average age, because I've talked to all those, the average age was 9. The average kid got raped 20 times a day. Their average lifespan was 18 months. They're not gonna find those 1 million kids. I don't know if you saw. I saw the footage of them loading these kids. It's just the sickest looking guys in the world down in Texas. What was that coordinated through? Catholic Charities and HIAS, the Jewish foundation.
And you had the
Right?
Lutheran Foundation as well that
Lutheran-
was involved in that
well,
too.
the
That's
two
all our
biggest-
organized religious
yeah.
groups.
Well, it's back to your comment on the NGOs. So no, I mean, is America's interest tied to Israel's interest?
I think there are. I do think that we
Go.
have.
Answer that geographically, politically, and spiritually.
All right. Geographically, I do think that geographically, I think that our interests are primarily in the Western Hemisphere. However, I used to take a more isolationist point of view, and that has changed. And the reason why is because when we take a step back from the world, clearly we have a lot of power as a nation. And when we take a step back, it creates a power vacuum, and you
Mhm.
see other people moving into
Yeah.
place.
Yeah,
And I think that's not a good thing. So as much as I hate,
hegemony, right?
yeah, so
Hegemony.
much as I
Yeah.
hate the idea of America being the world's police force, the fact is we are. And if we take a step back from that, then it creates more problems for us. So I do think that America needs to have hegemony. I do believe that.
Is
Now-
the world a safer place now than it was 50 years ago?
Oh, I think it is.
You
Absolutely.
think so?
I think so.
I think America's incredibly more, and the numbers will show you that's incredibly more dangerous in America than it was 50 years ago.
I don't know about that. Listen, it certainly feels different because I think we got a lot more media and a lot more. We see a lot of the crime. And all
That could be true. Yeah, that could be.
The murder rate is down.
Well, but they're not reporting it though. They've announced in all the blue cities they're not reporting the murders anymore. FBI stopped reporting murders, and they stopped reporting them. They just said, I don't want to report that. So
I think that we are we are safer today than we were in previous years. Do I think our quality of life is better? No. I think the quality of life back in the 50s was probably a lot better. And I think that had more to do with social interaction with the family and children and moms.
right. Well, the
being home
justification for
kids.
the 64 Welfare and Civil Rights Act was that black people had 11% divorce illegitimacy rate, 11%.
Yeah.
Which was really closer to 9, but they said 11.
But
And now it's approaching 90.
To go back to your point though of whether things are great in China or whether things are great in Russia, I don't buy much of what I hear about because a lot of it is propaganda. That I know for a fact. And the thing is the fact is you still got people trying to come to this country. You don't see people trying to get into these other countries. They come here. And why is that? Because this is still the country where you can come here with nothing and you can make something.
Well, they haven't destroyed us yet.
No.
Okay, they haven't destroyed. If they get 60% in the fall, we're destroyed. Most likely, there might be some salvation in what we're doing.
Well, just remember that so here's the thing though, right? Even if they take control and power in the House and the Senate and the legislature, they can do everything they want. But you still have President Trump in there. Now, let's say they impeach Trump. Well, then you got Vance there. Let's say they impeach him. Well, now you have Rubio. I mean, what are they going to do? Go all the way down the line? I mean, at the end of the
once
day,
they impeach, they can put anybody. Once they impeach, it's what happened with Nixon and Agnew. They can put anybody they want in there.
I think, though, that this time around, I think Trump was very careful about who he put in under him. Who, I think he was thinking about the fact that he could be
anything's an upgrade from Mike Pence, right?
Right. No, I'm serious. I think
throw a rock out the window. We got an upgrade on Pence.
But I think that's why Trump picked the people that he picked, in succession to him. So in case of something like that. But the fact is that you still would have a president that could veto, unless they had enough people to
not at 60%. That's what 60% is.
I don't think we'll get to 60. I don't think they'll.
I don't think so either. But it's going to be close because it's going to go past 55.
We'll see. I don't know. It's interesting. Did you see this poll that came out that CNN was talking about? They said MAGA was 100% behind him.
Okay, yeah. So if you believe that, then
I know CNN, right?
Yeah. So all of a sudden we're going to believe CNN.
But why would they say that?
Well,
I mean, I just gotta say.
I think it's really obvious that why they would say that.
You think
they want the lie to be as obvious as possible because it's better to hide it in plain sight. It's just it's 100% because there are some people that are going to believe that. There's probably a lot of people. A bigger problem.
I do think that they're. It's interesting though. I was looking at at the end of the day, I think ultimately, as much as we think that we can, influence things or have control over things, ultimately, I think it's in God's hands. I really do believe that, and I think we're going to see whatever's part of His plan. We're going to see, what happens. I hope to God that we're not.
What did Jesus say? Said, "The things I do, you shall do also, and greater things you're going to do because I go to the Father." What happened? What happened when He said it's finished, Nate? The veil is rent too. You know what the veil was? 6 inches thick, 50 foot long, 80 foot tall, ripped from the top to the bottom. What happened then? All the Jews started becoming Christians. So what they do? Go kill all the Christians. Then what happened? Paul goes, "I'm a Christian, and Jesus is alive." So then what happened? They had to write the Talmud because they couldn't defend the Torah and the Pentateuch any longer. So they write the Talmud.
Because they did the same thing that, you talk about the Schofield Bible. They did the same thing.
They say it was right. No, I was going to say it. They did
our interpretation of things.
Let's just change what? Well, they changed the script.
Look, if you are so I've thought about this a lot. Like when it comes to why is there so much animus, or why did the Jews get brought up so much in these conversations? And the problem is like, and you said this at the very beginning, there are righteous Jews and there are evil Jews, just like there are righteous Americans and there are evil Americans. But the problem is Jews, that word being Jewish, it's an ethnicity. It's not a nationality. It's not even a religion. It's an ethnicity. Right. And the problem is that it's easy to just paint every single Jewish person with the same brush, but they're not all the same. In fact, they're very divided. And there are some.
Oh, absolutely.
But to your point of Zionism, I got to disagree with you on that. Look,
good.
The word Zionism.
I'd rather have disagreement. They'll say it in corporations: if two people agree on everything in a company, one of them is not necessary.
I think Zionism they're. And maybe I need to explore this more. Maybe there are. The problem is again, comes down to semantics. If you're looking at the actual meaning of the word Zionist, it just simply means that they have the right to exist, as a nation. Regardless of what anything in the Bible says, the fact is by the law of, of conquering, they are there now. And anybody that wants to, say, hey, they shouldn't have a right to exist there, I think the same could be said of Americans who conquered this land. So I don't agree with this notion that when Palestinians get up and say from the river to the sea, they clearly mean to wipe. So from the river to the sea, they mean to wipe Israel off the map. And this notion of Palestine it's a lie. Palestine was a word that was actually it was thrown out there. So
but now you got to go all the way back to Joshua going into the land and
yeah. No. I mean, yeah. But again,
Moses having to watch.
There were people. Listen, when in the Bible, when God told the Hebrews to go into the land, He said, "Kill them all." So He said, "Kill them all," and they didn't, and they're paying for it now. Because
absolutely.
many of those people
absolutely.
Would not exist if they had done what they were told to do.
In the DNA, that reason why they've clear cut the Palestinians.
I don't choose to support Israel on the basis of an interpretation of scripture that may or may not have the same meaning today as it did back then. I choose to support Israel because they are a democratic nation in a hostile environment. I agree and 100% support Trump's goal of the Abraham Accords and trying to bring unity. Look, these people are cousins. They should be able to get along. And I think it's perfectly okay to have in one country, they have a king and they have a monarch. And if the people want that, that's fine. And if the people over here want a democracy, that's fine. If the people here, want something else, that's fine. But at the end of the day, I don't think it should be in our interest to try to, change any government, unless that government is hostile towards us. Then I'm all for bombing the shit out of them, and that's the truth. How I feel about it. Call me a red-blooded West Virginian. I just feel like anybody who's going to threaten us or tell us, call us the Great Satan and tell us that that death to America. I love what Pete Hegseth said. They've been saying death to America, death to Israel, and now they've been delivered death from America and death from Israel. Now, I am clear, though, that I'm all for blowing the hell out of the ICRG, but not the IRCG, but not the Iranian people. And we've been doing that. So I think we've been conducting this war about as best as you could possibly.
We've been told that's what we're doing. We've been told that's what we're doing.
Oh, believe me, I've got sources. Yeah. I've got sources I'm talking to who have now. Granted, I don't know any of these people personally, but I got sources very, very tied in with Iran who I've been talking to, and the people in Iran, without a doubt, are celebrating. Now, not all of them. There's about 20% of the people in Iran.
80% don't give a crap. 80% are sitting out there. They probably don't even know there's a war going on.
You might be right about that. But the people in the cities, I would say 80% of the people in the cities absolutely are happy that the IRCG are having the shit blown out of them. Because at the end of the day, they don't like what's been happening in their country. They don't like the fact that these guys have been rounding up and killing their own people and their young people. They don't like the fact that young women are being raped so that before they get beheaded or before they get killed, they can't go to heaven. I mean, it is so backwards and so evil what has been going on there.
They've had that going on before the Islamic takeover in 79. It was that way under the Shah. I mean, my friend was there.
Oh, I don't think so. Under the Shah, you had women walking around with no head coverings.
Here's what he was there. Is a small percentage, and that's what we were shown. It's a small percentage. Now, you still had radical Islam there. It didn't have the power. It didn't have the power. It didn't have the power that it was given when the CIA brought in Khomeini.
Clearly, whoever was behind the decision to because in my understanding is that the Shah's his intelligence group or whatever was blamed for some event that happened wrongly, and that there was there were the Brits and you had even CIA involved.
It was the MI6 CIA Mossad group that planned that whole thing. And that's come out. That's not a guess. That's
so whoever was behind that, they're probably dead now. But clearly, that to me, this comes kind of full circle back to what I was talking about, or I should say, what I blew the whistle on, right? Which is that there's all kinds of secret crap that goes on behind closed doors, and the American people are kept out of the loop. Congress is kept out of the loop.
Oh, absolutely.
The people who actually are supposed to be there. One of the biggest things that has bothered me, and I've seen it happen even in this administration, and it continues to bother me, is the existence of FISA, in Section 702. As long as they have that,
which the Congress just extended.
that's right. They just renewed it. They keep kicking a can down the road. They've seen it abused nonstop, and yet I tell you why they would keep it around, because it's a very powerful tool. I was read onto it. I know how it's used. It is so powerful, and it can be used for great good, or it can be used for great evil.
It's paraconstitutional power.
Absolutely, it is against the Constitution. And I'm a firm believer in what Benjamin Franklin said about this, which is that anyone who would give up freedom for the sake of security deserves neither. Right. And I think we have lost, as a American people, we have lost this concept, if you will, of self-determination and all that. That's why so many people don't vote.
So keep going. I'm sorry, I interrupted.
Well, I was just going to say, so if we don't, so you are correct, and when you say that.
Wait, if you're going to say I'm correct, I need to get my wife in here.
You're correct, and when you say that the problem is that ultimately the problem's in our culture. If we can't fix that, then we're doomed.
You're not going to fix it until you fix the media. All right.
So how do we fix the media?
I'm getting ready to tell you, man, and it's so dang simple. It's unreal. We invented a technology. It takes everybody's connectivity, because you know a bunch of people that you're connected to. What happened is the media gained power in a period when the world was disconnected. 1500s, 1600s, 1700s, 1800s, 1900s. The world was disconnected. So businesses, to sell stuff, needed to get the word out. So they needed something in the middle. They needed a broker for buying and selling, right? And so the media grew to that. And so if you and I went back to ourselves in 2020, 26 years ago now, and we sat down with ourselves and we said, Nate and Tim, we're Nate and Tim. And we're here from the future to tell you, forget about radio, television, and newspaper. We wouldn't even let ourselves finish the statement. We would have said, get back to the future. Are you crazy? That radio, TV, newspaper are going away. They've gone away, Nate. They've got 25% of the ad dollars, and half of their ad dollars are going into digital media. I had a meeting with the heads of the Hearst Corporation in Texas for a real estate development we got, where they were giving me, it's a big development, and it's fallen apart because of two partners are suing each other. But they were willing to give me all the newspapers, and they were giving me all the media if I would buy all their digital. They were going to place my ads on Facebook and Google. And I looked at them and I went, so the mighty Hearst Corporation is here to be my ad agency. Is that what y'all are telling me? What happened? They changed the rules of media, Nate. Before 2000, for 500 years, media was about, we think this many people are reading the newspaper today, or watching this TV show, or watching this radio spot, or driving by this billboard. And based on what we think how many people there are, we're going to charge you this much money. And Super Bowl has a lot more people, so it's going to be a lot more money. And that's how the whole thing worked. So much cheating and fraud in the Nielsen ratings and all that. I've bought hundreds of millions of dollars of media. That's all right. So all of a sudden, the digital media world comes in and goes, hey, you just pay us when. Have you ever bought ads on Facebook or Google or anything?
Oh, yeah.
Clicks and impressions. That's right. That's right. I forgot. Clicks and impressions, right? Do I want to buy impressions, or do I want to buy clicks? That's your two choices. Well, they're both more accountable than, I think this many people are going to see the ad and you're going to pay me this much money. So all the money did what? Well, why, Nate? They changed the rules. It's it. The golden rule is not he who has the gold makes the rules. The golden rule is he who makes the rules gets the gold. They changed the rules. And now, out of the $1 trillion that goes into this is all about how do we fix the culture. You got what's upstream from culture. The media is upstream from culture. I can show you all the examples of it throughout history. From 1913 to 1963, I can show you how they changed the culture with the media. And then it was lost. And then we lost politics. And so they changed the rules, and all that money's over there. And now there's $1 trillion going in advertising, and 70% of it goes to mostly to Facebook, YouTube, and Facebook, YouTube, Google, and Amazon. it's like there's almost 75% of all advertising goes to digital media, and 80% of all of that goes to those 4 companies, which is just 3 companies because Google owns YouTube. And they've got all that money. Most people don't realize that Amazon made $65 billion $65 billion last year on clicks and impressions.
Well, and I'll tell you something else too. I should have bought stock in Facebook when I had a chance.
Well, we need to find that time machine and go back and tell ourselves.
And I look at it and I go, but at the time I'm like, how the hell are these guys making money? Because there's no way they're not charging you for this. So like, how are they making? I mean, I realize
you just asked the best question, Nate.
And I'm going to tell you, I found out some answers to that. It's more than just advertising. They are selling our data. They're selling
the data, but
they're selling us.
That's right. They're selling data, but there's something that you asked the best question. How are they making money? They don't even. Twitter was worth something like $5 billion, and they didn't even know how they were going to make a nickel. Why? It's only about eyeballs, Nate. Eyeballs equals cash. So if you change the rules based on that principle, you will win. We invented a technology. It's strong enough that the UN sent somebody after our financial team. And the U.S. Marshals on the investigation said, it's because of this technology you guys have got. And what it does is it allows businesses just to pay for sales. Now, you can go to TV and pay for what they tell you, or radio, and they say, we think this many people are going to be listening or watching. You can pay for that ad. And it still has use. It doesn't go away. It just changes the balance, what's called the media mix. Or you can go to Facebook, Google, and Amazon and say, we want to pay for clicks and impressions, or YouTube. And tons of fraud in that, by the way, especially with all the bots and everything that's going on.
Oh, yeah.
Tons of that. I could run a program right now to go click on anybody's ads and just click it all day long and use all their money, right? And they don't get nothing. And that's done a lot. Okay, so they changed the rules and all that money went over to them. What happens if we change the rules again and say businesses just pay for sales? Is there a business that's going to want to pay for clicks and impressions when they can just pay for sales? They only pay after they get a sale? We have the technology. But the technology, what you were talking about in all that tongue-tied stuff that you tried to do at the beginning, the perpetual loop ecosphere, it's actually the AI that gave it the name. I'd like to say that we did, but the AI gave it the name. So what you've created is a perpetual loop ecosphere. The AI also said, with this, you will threaten the existence of Google, Facebook, and Amazon all at the same time. And after that, we were attacked. I had the FBI on me for 3 years. This has been in the works for a while. So if we change the rules, so business only pay for sales, but what we did is went one better. The money that they pay goes to people in a new viral way. We don't need to get into that. It's so simple, you'll pass right over it. But it's so simple. It's free. Everybody can see how much money they're making from businesses paying for sales before they ever have to pay anything. It changes everything. And the U.S. Marshals told our guy after doing an investigation, I'll tell you about that offline, I can talk about that publicly, is because that technology you have is going to change the whole world. Because, Nate, if we change the rules of customer acquisition, which is at the heart, what does the devil want to control with the mark of the beast? The Federal Reserve and the printing of the money? No, buying and selling.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
We've because of the Schofield Bible in part, we've taken that thing to mean, well, it's all rapture related, and there's going to be we got to get out of here before all that happens, and it's going to be buying and selling, and you won't be able to buy or sell anything. I don't read it that way. Now I have to make a jump in faith a little bit on this one, but I believe God always makes a way, and I don't believe that He's going to condemn us into just this totalitarian, transhumanistic existence.
No, there's always a remnant.
Right.
And some of us, I think we'll get out of it. And I feel like my whole life's journey, when I look at, I had no intention of going into cybersecurity. Never for in a million years would I have ever thought. Didn't have any intention of going to the military. Never had intention of getting into any of the things that my life has gone down a completely different path than what I had envisioned.
Where were you born? Where were you born?
Southern California, Los Angeles area. I was born in San Dimas.
You're a SoCal? I didn't know that.
Yeah,
I didn't read that. I didn't see that part of it. How'd you end up as a hillbilly?
Never look back.
How'd you end up as a hillbilly?
I ended up joining the military, they moved me all over the place, and one of those places was Pennsylvania. And that's when I got out of the military. I was at Raven Rock, underground Pentagon in Pennsylvania. And then I ended up going to work as a contractor and then as a federal employee with the Defense Department. So we moved around a lot. We lived in Georgia, we lived in South Carolina, we lived in Pennsylvania, Maryland, now West Virginia. But
were you at Fort Meade? Did I see you were at Fort Meade?
I was at Fort Meade for a while.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
And I also worked in Japan for 3 years. Brought my family with me there as a DoD a Navy civilian. Worked at Pearl Harbor Navy Shipyard. So we've been all over the place. And I knew that because of my line of work, that ultimately I needed to be near the Washington, D.C. metro area, if my career was going to take off, because being in the world of Defense Department and intelligence and all of that, it just made sense. But after my whistleblowing and having death threats and having people trying to assassinate me, I was like, okay, time to get the hell out of Maryland and move somewhere where I can own as many guns as I want and carry and not have to worry about it, and I can live somewhere where.
And how far are you there from DC?
An hour and 15 minutes.
Oh, is it that close?
It's that close. However, during traffic, it's a 3-hour drive. On a Saturday, it takes me an hour and 15 minutes. On a Monday morning in traffic, it's a 3-hour drive.
Well, so anyway, I'm telling you, all we have to do, we've already got hundreds of thousands of businesses ready to go. There's so much that we're sitting on, and there's some things that have to happen, but and I think they might happen this week at CPAC. It looks like. Are you going to go to CPAC? Are you going to be down there for that?
Yeah, I don't know. The group that I'm with that this show airs on is
Eddie.
Eddie's going to have some seats there. It depends on if he's got enough for me to go. I might actually take him up on that, because
if you can make it down, it's going to be at the Gaylord. Mm-hmm. I have an extra room in the house I've got there. We got 4 bedrooms. You know Stuart Rhodes?
Yeah.
Stuart's going to take one of the bedrooms. Cool. Another guy named Chad Lavreau. I don't know if you know Chad, but he's a real hyper-connected guy. Works with Mark Vargas and Lauren Winsky and Gary Franchi, if you know Gary.
I know Gary.
Yeah. So so we got an extra bedroom. I'll give it to you. It'll be my treat. And we're going to have on Friday night. Listen,
I got to show you this real quick here. Trolls, he's one of our regulars. He loves to come on here and troll me, but I love him. Eddie said he'd never go back.
Never go back to CPAC or what?
Yeah. That's funny.
Yeah, well, this is my first time, and I've been in that world a bunch, and I have never. This past Monday, I was like, and I've had people say you need to go, and I ain't going to that. And on Monday, what's today? Saturday. So this is 5 days ago. I said, I am not doing anything. I am not going to that thing. I don't want to. I don't want to spend my money. I don't want to go up there. I don't want to go shake a bunch of hands and feel like I know somebody and feel like I am somebody, because I already know better. I married a green-eyed, redheaded Italian girl out of my league, and she's kept me in my place for 30 years and 2 months. And
behind every good
dude. So I said, because I'm kind of brusque, and I'm almost half cussing. I'm trying not to cuss at all now, but I'm like, Lord, if you want me to go to that, you do it. I'm not making any moves on this thing. And there's some relationships that need to be massaged there, and that are important. And literally the phone just started ringing, and I went, screw it, I got to go. I went and told my wife, I'm going to have to go to Dallas. And so I got a real nice house, and about 20 minutes from the Gaylord Texan. And I got an extra room if you want it. It'll be yours.
It's a nice hotel. I've been there. I was down there for a cybersecurity conference last year.
Oh, yeah.
It's like so huge.
Well, Friday night, I'm going to be cooking my world famous Fat Timmy's brisket burgers.
Oh man!
And we got his brisket burgers, and I'm telling you,
I
mean, I'm a red meat steak dude. Since I've discovered these things, I'm not even, and I'm an eater. I eat meat, and I'll eat 2 half-pounders together in buns, and they're so dang tender and flavorful, you can't believe. And everybody that's tasting them now is going, oh my God. So I've told everybody, we're going to have a meeting on Friday night on how to save America. And I'm as serious as a heart attack. If I went into the backstory on this thing, it should impress you at the very least, may make you cry. But we're going to save the country. All these things, we're not going to win this. Tommy Robinson. Is there anybody that's given more for a country than Tommy Robinson? And he's going all over America trying to drum up support. What's he going to do? He's going to form the same thing that got him thrown into prison. And he's going to get thrown into prison. He's not going to take this head on. It's got a 200-year head start with quadrillions of dollars, and you're not fighting the London government that has purposely destroyed England and Europe with the Muslim horde.
Yeah.
They're in on it, just like the French were in on bringing the Germans into France. You know, they spent 3 years bribing all the French politicians, which what I take just took a couple of prostitutes and some nice wine, and they had what they wanted from the French. But we're going to take this back, and we've got hundreds of people with us on this thing. We've got a few little hurdles to get over, and they're technological. But dude, this thing, if we go in and say all businesses just pay for sales and the money goes to people, what happens is the money is virally spread with this technology in a unique, simple way so that people are making the money after a sale. They used to be the money that went to Facebook, Google, and Amazon before a sale. So that the people now find out about products and services and companies and gift cards and all kinds of other things that are there that are pretty cool by getting the money. So they buy more product, which creates more commissions for more people. All we're doing is taking the whole rebate and cash back philosophy, and we've figured out a way to take it and spread it to people in a way that gets the business more sales, but takes all the risk out of that. It's the same dollars and the exact same process. Facebook, Amazon, and Google could do this if they wanted to. They could have done it. They can't do it now because their whole financial structure and everything they're doing is built on clicks and impressions. If we push over this domino, they will begin to fall. We have five pages.
Their fatal flaw, in my opinion, is that they began to lose sight of the fact that there's a famous saying that I remember from back in the day with Michael Jordan, and he was being given a whole bunch of crap from Al Sharpton and others and the like, about why aren't you out there?
Why aren't you more of a
more involved in championing
race relations?
And he said, because Republicans buy my shoes too. And so, Google or, Alphabet Inc. really is what it is. And, and Facebook and all these other, these tech companies, they really lost sight of what drives the economy. And I think they are, I think they're going to go, eventually they're going to go the way of the way the mainstream media is. And, and I think
AI is going to change everything in that world.
Yeah,
so
it certainly is giving an advantage to people that has never really been. It's made things, just like social media created, whole new industries, and it created opportunities for, for small business. I see AI is going to do the same thing. It's going to revolutionize, small business.
Well, the problem is you've got the same two factions at war again: freedom versus control.
Yeah,
the battle's freedom versus control.
Well, and I do think that there's a problem in that we all have to recognize, which is that if you are let's say that you have your own social media thing and you've got your own, like my show. I'll be honest, I run ads. I run that one ad, but I make no money at all on my show.
Yeah,
and that's a choice. That ad.
I saw the numbers, dude. That
ad pays for Patriots Prayer, and that's their ad, just so I can be on here. But it makes it so I don't have to pay anything. And at the end of the day, the only reason I even do this is because I want to continue to have a voice. But I see kind of a fatal flaw with all media, whether it's social media or whether it's mainstream media, and that is that people are going to be driven on what makes them money. if that is where their source of income is.
Yeah.
Like it's interesting, like I think about it, right? I say whatever I feel like saying, because at the end of the day, I'm not, um, I guess I can't be canceled. All right. Because at the end of the day, this isn't my financial income stream. Now, in my job, I'm very careful about what I do and what I say. I follow their rules. I do everything that they want me to do and nothing they don't want me to do, because at the end of the day, they're paying my bills. And this is the problem, in my opinion, the fatal flaw of all advertising. So if somebody, had a way to take away the potential for being canceled, then I think that would be a great thing, for social media, because then it would prevent a lot of people, being driven to say and do things, because there's a lot of good people, I think, start off good, but they get corrupted. They get corrupted
Right.
because at the end of the
Right.
day, they build an empire and they realize, oh crap, how do I?
Well, that happens
how do I
to
keep going?
pastors and businesses. And
100%. No, that's a
pastors
very
start
good
out
point.
preaching the word, and then all of a sudden it's about a business,
About
and they can't say what they want.
how many butts are in seats, and they can't say what they really believe or what they really feel, and it leads to disingenuousness, and I think that's the problem, is that people lose their
Well, I want you to have that with a large audience. All right. That's what we're working towards here, because the people like you that have the small audiences are the ones, because we're in that fourth turning, right? And those people what happens in the fourth turning is the people in power lose power. That's what happens. And so, and technology is the greatest tool to create new power.
I do agree with you on that.
And what we're doing with AI, Nate, is everybody's trying to figure out the next innovation in AI.
Great equalizer. It's like, when you hear people talk about, I love, Second Amendment, obviously my back wall's covered in guns, and I love guns. But one of the best things I ever heard somebody ever say is that, the gun is the great equalizer. A woman, could be, a $110, and some 6 foot, 250-pound man, is going to take her down every time, but she got a gun. That's an equalizer right there. In the same way, in the world of business and the world of finance, without a doubt, AI is the great equalizer.
It can be.
It can be. I agree.
All right. It can be. But the people that won't control and want to take us into transhumanism don't see it that way.
Now, they're a bunch of weirdo freaks, that basically, have no.
The key is eyeballs, Nate.
Yeah.
The key is eyeballs. We've devised a way that everybody makes money off of eyeballs passively from businesses only paying for sales. Everybody. And I'm not talking multi-level marketing. You know how many people, what percentage of people that go into multi-level marketing deals make more than $10,000 in a year? It's less than 0.1% of everybody that's ever done anything in multi-level marketing.
Yeah.
And I have people still, I'm like, why would I want to put any time into something that's multi-level marketing where my odds are 99.9 that I'm not even going to make 10 grand?
Yep.
All right. We've devised a technology that you make money off of thousands of people, maybe tens of thousands. That's up to you. It's not hard. Off a business, and the money's generated from businesses that are only paying for sales.
Well, we're hitting 2 hours, or actually a little bit over.
I go another 4, man. This is fun. So,
but we're tell our audience, where can they find out about this? What is the
right now? Just email. Freedom Place is behind the scenes. There's 2 things I'll do. First of all, I have this book, Tim@freedomplace.com. That's real easy to remember. I'll send this book to anybody. Guarantee you'll laugh. I guarantee you'll cry. You might not have laughed but once. You might not cry but once. It's true. This is a lead into the next book that's coming out in fourth quarter this year called 3 Timothy, The Truth About the Lie. The truth about the lie, Nate, is about the official story in a sense. The official story of 9/11 is a lie. The official story of Kennedy's a lie. The official story of the Epstein files is a lie. The official story of Seth Rich is a lie. The official story of the Revolutionary War is a lie. The official story of the Civil War is a lie. We have to undo the lie. And so that's going to be a little more private. This is fun. I'll give this to anybody. That's fine.
There's an old book that's from like back in the 60s. I think it was called like The Underside of History. Have you ever read that?
No.
So that was one that my stepmom had shared with me. But it gets into a lot of things in history that we've been taught. That let's just put it this way: there's a lot more to the story than what we've been taught.
All right,
Very interesting.
So, but what's going to happen with Freedom Place as it soft launches? Anybody that gets in touch with me is going to have a huge advantage. Listen. Media grew in a disconnected state and gained power, and they're trying to hold on to it. The digital media has just supplanted. We're in businesses are in a bidding war to give business media more money. All right. It used to be the media. Now it's big tech. It's the same masters. They take all that money that they collect, whether you get sales or not, and they're destroying our culture. Culture's downstream from media. Politics is downstream from culture. The AI said, if you do this, you threaten the existence of Google, Facebook, and Amazon, and they're going to come after you. We had FTC attorneys already go over this, and they just sat there for an hour going, we've never seen anything like this. Because it's so big and so simple at the same time. And dude, we're putting 51% into a trust, so it can never be bought.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to take the other 49% and give it to the public in either a reverse IPO with a SPAC or an IPO. Because we want the people to take control. People will make the money that used to go to media. That's it. And it's trillions of dollars a year. It's not just the 1 trillion advertising. There's another
big industry, without a doubt.
Well, you get into all the other related money that's associated with customer acquisition, and it's huge. And so, but there's all kinds of new money that's created. And once you understand it, and it's not really hard to understand, it's just different. It's like me telling you, I'm going to make that wagon move without a horse in 1910, and it just don't make any sense until you see it.
Yeah.
So, but so that's what we've got coming, and then we're doing another thing that's related to that. It's already spread around the world. It had us in Israel. Ironically, I had a letter hand delivered to Netanyahu about 60 days ago on this. We're going to stop the whole world because I'm concerned about the elections, and I believe in prayer. And on November 1st, we're going to get 2 billion people to pause for the same 2 minutes. We have an app that's going to coordinate the thing. It's the same moment in time. It's not a movement, but it's a collection. There's 3 things we got to do to save the country, Nate. We have to unify the people. You're not going to unify them with any movement or anything like that. There's no movement that's going to unify people because you'll be a threat to the power structure and they'll attack you.
You're right about that.
All right. So we're going to say 2 minutes. And dude, I've been on meetings with 500 pastors from Pakistan. I got pastors in every Muslim country ready to go. Pastors, Christian pastors. I've missed a call from my guy in Turkey. He's one of 5,000 Christians left in Turkey. He has already spread this to every Muslim country. We're going to stop the whole world for 2 minutes on November 1st, 2 days for the election, a Sunday, to pray at the same moment, 2 minutes for America. We're going to focus the whole world. And then we're going to spill all those people into this Freedom Place technology, which takes back the money by changing the rules of media, which then affects the culture, which then will affect the politics. And it will go quickly because of AI and what we put in AI. We've set the AI up in a way that it's full of trust. And you don't have to figure it out. It's just there to work for you. So you just say, I want to buy this, I want to sell this, and it does it. You're done. It's going to be so simple. And you're making money without selling anything. You're making money without ever selling anything. You don't have to sell anything. You join for free. And I promise you, we've had top attorneys look at it and go, this is crazy. This is just so crazy. And then they always say the same thing when you have a good idea. And I've been a part of 2 of them in my lifetime. They always say the same thing. Why has nobody ever thought of this before? Because once you look at it, it's like, well, why didn't we figure out this combustion engine to make a car instead of having to feed a horse and attach it to a wagon? It's really not that complicated. And it's that kind of thing. So there's 3 things we're going to do. We're going to unite the people with what we call 2 for America. And that's getting ready to launch in America. And that's part of why I got to go to Dallas. And we've got some incredible stories with that already happening. Freedom Place is going to take back the money. Then we got another thing. We've got 230 acres right now in Texas, right in between Austin and San Antonio. We're beginning the process of land planning. We're going to do condos and hotel on it, but we're going to bring back all the statues that we were talking about earlier, Abraham Lincoln, everything that's been taken out of the public square. This started with Judge Roy Moore and the Ten Commandments crash We have connections to David Barton. We haven't talked to David, but we'll get to him eventually. And we're going to start bringing those things, but we're going to start building new statues from Christopher Columbus, Robert Hunt, and we're going to tell the history of God's hand on America in 77-foot tall statues through 7 time epochs. And we've got the American Indians, and we're going to give them applause, and we're going to tell the whole truth of what we've done with American Indians. And I'm going to try to talk them out of being called Native Americans, but I'll be flying into a buzzsaw with that one. But they came from Russia, and they migrated from Russia. They're native Russians, if you want to get that. That's why 25 states have a town in it called Moscow. Did you know that? 25 states have a town in it called Moscow, because the American Indians migrated from Russia, and they stopped in Alaska and became Eskimos all of a sudden, and they just kept migrating over 1,000 years.
I like to think of myself as a Native American, as I was born here.
Yeah, but it's BS to say they're native. There are no Native Americans. There's maybe there's some wolves or something.
It's interesting,
beavers.
That's a whole funny thing in and of itself. Is like again, the law of conquering, right? It's like they were killing each other and warring before we ever got here, and so this notion, of the white man is the evil,
stole all the land. No, that's
right,
how land works.
One of the greatest histories I ever read was about the Algonquin, people and the Mohawks and Hiawatha, and how he brought peace, basically by coming and bringing these people together. Say, hey, look, you got to stop, committing savagery. You got to stop. In fact, and our founders were the laws that they created up there, which basically was almost like our Bill of Rights, was essentially shaped largely in part of what came from them.
Yeah, Magna Carta, and
exactly. So it's fascinating to me. But yeah, there's so much evil that has always existed throughout history of various groups of people, and So it's the history of God's hand on America. We've got all this. I can show it to you. I think it's in one of the videos I sent Jeanette, or Jeannie. I guess she go by Jeannie. Yeah.
And it's the grand entrance. We're going to have 12 men that are $100 million each. Okay. The statue, the greatest. What's the greatest thing we've done to commemorate American greatness? Mount Rushmore, right? I don't think anybody would argue that.
That's pretty awesome.
Would you? There's four heads, 55 foot tall, on the side of a mountain in a place that nobody.
I think Trump's face needs to be up on there next, but I think it should happen after he's no longer here.
Well, I got something bigger and better.
He would love that.
My conversation with Trump's people, because we got invited to Mar-a-Lago to talk to his screeners on the first phase of this, was it's time to do something a lot bigger and better than Mount Rushmore. Why did we stop in 1941? We stopped because World War II started, and then communism came in, and then they switched the culture. All right. So there's a lot going on this I'm not talking about, but let's commemorate American greatness. Father Brebeuf, but it's God's hand on America. Father Brebeuf, Jesuit priest, goes in, evangelizes the Indians in the New Mexico, Arizona territory, and they boil him in oil. So he begins to bless. Now, this is that, a lot of people like to hate on Catholic. This is a Catholic Jesuit priest evangelizing on his own savages. And he begins to bless them while they're boiling him in oil, because they get a demonic pleasure from the screams of the people that they torture.
Sure.
So he's not giving it to them. We've got this statue design. It's cool. And so they decide to strip his skin off of him while they're boiling him in oil. And he blesses them to the point that he dies. He never stops smiling. How do we know that? Well, the Jesuits are faithful and they're tough. So when he doesn't come back, they send the next Jesuit in. He goes to the same Indians. What are they wanting? We want to know the power this man has. He goes, I'll tell you, it's Jesus Christ. And they all convert to Christianity. These stories are that, because there's 3 things we got to do, Nate. We got to unite the people. We got to reclaim the culture, and we got to take control of the money. You take control of the money by taking control of the buying and selling. That's why Satan has that targeted, buying and selling. We have the antidote to the Antichrist. And I don't think we're that close to the Antichrist, even though it sure looks like it. I think the way I live my life is take dominion and subdue the earth. And I think that the only thing that God hid from Jesus is the only time he said, I don't know, is when they said, when are you coming back? He goes, he says these words. I'll paraphrase. That's above my pay grade, man. It's the only time. This is the guy who said, I don't do anything that I don't see the Father do first. I don't say anything I don't hear the Father say first. I'm in him and he's in me. And then they go, well, when are you coming back? You go, I don't know. What did you just tell us? You were in the Father and you don't need? That's above me, man.
I do think that that if we are going to survive as a country, there has to be a revival in this nation, and because it's like our whole system of government, our whole system of justice was designed for a religious and moral people,
Correct,
not for an atheist people, and that is to me when you look at like what has been the greatest evil, I think in our world in the last 100 years, it has been communism. And what is the key central thing about communism? It's about destroying religious faith, destroying, it's essentially, it's the same old evil spirit that was once upon Nebuchadnezzar, which is that you will worship me only and you'll not worship any of your gods.
Right. So communism, you will never find communism that you don't find Satanism and pedophilia.
Yeah, absolutely.
Wherever one is, the other two are always there. You can go back to, you'll always see those three traveling together. They're the demonic trinity in a sense.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
well, let's wrap it up here.
Sure.
I want to finish up. I think that we talked about a lot of things tonight, so it's been a great conversation. What do you think, out of all the things we've talked about, what's most important for you that you want people to take away from this conversation?
Atypically, I'm going to think before I talk. We were at the exact same position that Sam Adams stood up and said, I'm not going to take this crap any longer. I'm going to go fight these guys. And everybody went, Sam, what are you talking about? He didn't say, let's go found a new nation. He just said, no, we're right and they're wrong. We're good and they're evil. And we don't have to take this anymore. I'm tired of them living in our homes. I'm tired of them controlling our trade. I'm tired of the tyranny. And the guy's evil that's calling these shots. And we're supposed to be serving Lord Jesus. That's what he was talking about. All right. We're at that exact same point. And Nate, I promise you, I haven't told you the rest of the story. And it's the most powerful part. Some of it's in this book. I'll give this away to anybody. Cal book, Buick in the Taxi. But the main part will come in the next book. I'll give the books away. That's not how I need to make money. We are at that point, and we have the answer, and we're doing it in a way that the people are set free economically. Economically, you're not going to set free with AI. There's some people that are going to jump on this, and they're already doing it. They're already envisioning companies that have one person doing $1 billion a year. And they're moving towards that. That's not going to free up people, Nate. When one person's doing $1 billion a year, there's just so much money to go around. We have to have a different economic system. And that economic system is very simple when you see what we've got coming. So I don't think there's any answer into politics. MAGA is being split apart.
Yeah.
On purpose. That's not an accident. Whether it's Trump or the Israelis or the London or finance, it doesn't matter. The 5 people that were leading MAGA 2 years ago are no longer MAGA, and they're even being called traitors. Maybe they are. I don't know. But I know the signs because I watched it with Oath Keepers. I watched it at the Tea Party. I watched it with Proud Boys. And now it's happening in MAGA. It's just a little bit different the way that they're having to attack MAGA because it's got Trump and money involved. So we're not going to win that way. I'm telling you how we're going to do this. We're going to unite the people. We're going to reclaim the culture, which is a Christian culture, because there's 700 NGOs just in Texas being funded by our tax dollars for Islam. 700 NGOs just in Texas. How are we going to stop that? We're not. You're going to have to go a different direction. You have to have you got to know the terrain. You ain't going to win the battle if you don't know the terrain. I know the terrain. We'll unite the people for 2 minutes on November 1st. probably going to be 10 o'clock Central Time in the morning. The whole world, 2 billion people. We already got people all over the place. I mean, if I told you the stories about what's happening in China with this right now, in India, in Pakistan, in Abu Dhabi, in Turkey, we haven't even got it going in America. That's why I have to go to Dallas this week, really, because I have to meet with some people. It's going to happen. You talk about revival. It's not going to happen by trying to create another movement. It's going to have something like this. It might not be this, where we say we're going to pray for 2 minutes for the whole world's going to stop 2 days before the elections and just pray for America.
Well, I know prayer is a powerful thing, especially when it involves repentance. When you look at what happened in, I think about the story of Nineveh. And, that's why he didn't want to go there, because he knew if they repented, God would relent, from his.
That's me and CPAC this week. Him and Nineveh is me and CPAC.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. But somebody called me and said, yeah, you're being spit up out of the well into the Gaylord Texan. I said, no, I'm not even going to stay there. So I'm not even that good. But the most important thing is to wake up. We're not going to keep fighting the same battles the same ways and get a different result. We're not. That's why I'm saying all this. We're not going to fight the same battles the same way and get a different result all of a sudden. Mm-hmm. It's getting darker. It's not getting. Now we have victories that are happening thanks to Trump, right? Mm-hmm. Bolsonaro. But look what happened to Bolsonaro.
Yeah. Yeah.
Why can't we duplicate what Bukele did in El Salvador? That's the formula, because Trump's not going to shut down everything with martial law and arrest everybody because there's 30 million people they can activate that can go crazy.
Well, and this is we are this is the both the blessing and the curse of separation of powers, right? We have those separation of powers. We make things very difficult to get accomplished because historically our founders understood just how evil it was. Look, you might have a great leader, but if you get a bad leader and he's got all the power, it leads to tyranny. Right. And that was the one thing that they feared more than anything, was a tyrant.
So I'm here to try to wake people up to the actual problem that we face. And we like to dismiss things that God is in control. If he is, he's got things pretty screwed up. No, he said, I'm going to put you in charge. You're going to do the things I do because I go to the Father. I'm giving you the whole earth. Now you have to take dominion and subdue it. And he said, it's finished. I'm going to watch. Now, does that mean the Buddhists call him the great interrupter, how he interacts with us? But he's given us all the tools to go do this thing, to fight this evil. This is the greatest opportunity in history to go overcome pure evil.
And the fact that we live in this nation, I really do believe that anybody born in this country has won the lottery already. We have the opportunity to be able to do things here that other people in many other countries don't have the opportunity to do. And I think that innovation and technology and the advances that we have, if we take advantage of those things and as you say, subdue the earth and basically, utilize the advantage that we have for good, I think that's a good thing.
What Trump is doing is taking dominion and subduing the earth like nobody's ever done before in the history of the world. More than anybody in the history of the world, other than Jesus Christ, he's taken dominion and subduing the earth. But he's mostly alone most of the time. I mean, I'm sure he's got some people some of the time and are with him, and he's got a few people he can trust all the time. But he's fighting so many things, it's not even funny. We, the people, this is the most important thing. We have the answer. It's in us. Mm-hmm. It's in us. It's always been in us. And if you go now, you like the covenant that Abraham and God made, right? Go read the covenant that Robert Hunt made with God. If you don't know that, you need that.
Yeah, I've never heard of that.
Oh, so Robert Hunt gets off, fashions the cross, says we're going to pray, makes up the prayer. A year later, everything he has burns up except that prayer. A year after that, he dies of dysentery and stuff. The only thing that survived this man was his covenant prayer. We have ties to what we're doing to that moment and to that person There's some stuff in Virginia and Virginia Beach that's just miraculous with what we're doing. We have the Spirit of God on this to help people to survive this thing, to take it back, because he is a covenant God, and there is a covenant that was made in 1608. And they've made sure we hadn't seen it. But Nate, those founding fathers, they quoted it all the time. Mm-hmm. They knew about it. They knew, take dominion. This is our country. This is God's country. No king but King Jesus. We're at the greatest opportunity to defeat evil that has ever existed, which is what the fourth turning is about, which is what that's similarly related to that. Great men make easy times make weak men make hard times make great men. We're in the great men creation phase, of which I'm not one. I'm just a loudmouth, hillbilly, redneck, Cajun Texan, and I like to fight. So, but
there's a this kind of reminds me of another concept, or at least one pillar of this other concept, which is the 7 mountains of influence. And I've had some guests on that have talked about that, and they talk about how, religion, family, education, government, politics, right, military, media is one of them. Arts, right, and entertainment is another, and business or economics is the other. And you're right. They see the same vision, that basically, unless we take back those things and have dominion over them, then
right. Except they look at them, and it's great. I know Lance Wallnile, and I've studied some of that stuff. But there is, once you understand the truth of history, and then you can see the effects of pushing over one domino. It's Andrew Breitbart. Politics is downstream from culture. Okay, what's upstream? That's all there is to it. So if I push that domino over, I promise you the other two fall.
Yeah, true.
And it's free to do so. I love you. I appreciate you. You want to pray us out?
Yeah, absolutely.
Right, good.
Heavenly Father, Lord, I just thank you for the opportunity to be able to speak and to be able to talk about these topics and get into discovery and looking at what we can do as a people to be a part of your plan. And I do believe, God, that America is a part of your plan. It's clear as day. Lord, I pray that you would help us save this nation, Lord. Help save this nation from the evil that besets it, that wants to destroy it, that wants to take away all the goodness out of this country and replace it with evil. It's not mere men that we are up against. It is demonic forces and principalities, spiritual forces of darkness. And we pray, God, that you would give us the will, the insight, the wisdom, and just your supernatural hand to open the doors for us to be able to win and take control of the media and take control of the financial markets and take control and be able to liberate those things from the power of darkness, which is over much of it. We ask for your help in this, Lord. I pray your blessing over what Tim is doing and what his group is doing, Lord. And I pray that you would give them success, Lord, and help us to have success in saving this nation and keeping it for at least another generation, Lord. We pray and we ask this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Amen. I love you, man. If you feel like the whale wants to spit you out too down in Dallas, we gotta
I don't know if I want to go down to CPAC, but I definitely want to go check out this place that you're building. So when you get that place built out, I definitely want to come down and visit. That would be awesome. I love history, and I think that's a fascinating thing that you're doing down there.
We'll send you some stuff on that too.
Absolutely.
All right, brother. I appreciate your time.
Thank you.
I'm going to get you on one of our shows too.
Absolutely.
That's all right.
Folks, thank you so much for joining us tonight and for listening. I want to thank you, remind you to like and subscribe. And please, if you think what was talked about here tonight was something that, that struck you, share it with others. I think that's the best thing that you can do. God bless you all and have a wonderful night.
Thanks, Nate.
Raise some Cain. You gotta raise some Cain. In the heartland where the faith runs strong, we've seen the shadows growing long. Watch those around us be deceived. Yeah, the fight is at our doors, no matter who we believe. Corruption, lawless day and night, we'll speak the truth into the light. We'll bring the battle, heed the call, watch the whole thing fall. We gotta raise some Cain, show the lies, break some chains and make things right. Feel the power, be the change, time is now. We gotta raise some Cain.